This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring program that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on.
Yes, mate.
Yes, and today's guest, we've got Gareth Icke. How are you, brother?
I'm good, mate. I'm happy to be back in Scotland.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's nice. I used to be here a lot. I used to gig a lot in Scotland back in the old days.
Yeah.
Up on the islands.
Doing what?
Just
Music?
acoustic stuff. Yeah, so to be honest, like I played in punk bands for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got put on this acoustic tour because the band had split up and I didn't want to, not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically had this dreadful old Mazda with the pop-up lights, like one of those old school cars.
Mm-hmm.
Acoustic guitar on the front seat, and I'd just go around. And so I met this guy, Jono, in London. We did a gig together. And mate, the amount of times that you have these conversations where you go, we should do some gigs together in the future. And you go, yeah, never happens. Like, never happens. Never see that person again. Yeah. So I said to Jono, I was like, we should do some gigs in the future. And he was like, yeah. All right. Yeah. But we did. And then we went on tour and we did some in Scotland, some in Wales, some in England. And then we found out, like, the more remote you went, the better it was. So we were going out and playing like on Jura, and there's like maybe 180 people living there, but you get like 50 at a gig. It's just cool, man.
Yeah, because they won't have many gigs up there.
That's it. Yeah, and it was playing all originals too. So there's no covers. So you're literally just turning up and playing original tunes to like villagers that would never have heard your stuff, mate. I loved it.
Done it. But yeah. Scotland's beautiful. I think the world has got many beautiful places. I think now we think the world is in this total destruction, a total mess. People have got a right to believe that, but if you actually walk the streets, if you actually speak to people, the world is pretty normal. It's pretty beautiful if you actually go in nature as well.
I agree, yeah.
But before we get into all the madness, big fan of your dad, David. Like, legend for what he's done over the years. He was one of the first of his kind to come at the forefront, being ridiculed, and like, it's madness when you actually watch back the old footage. Many things he's predicted came true, some haven't, but that's life. I've interviewed your brother, again, great guy. Had him up with Scotland as well. We went to see the Josh Taylor fight. But very powerful family who are speaking out against the grain, speaking out against the elites, the cabal, whatever anybody wants to call it. But you're doing amazing work, you always have. You're a good, strong family. I know you all personally. But before I get into everything though, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more of a bit understanding about you, where you grew up and how it all began.
I was born in the Midlands of England, which is basically where I live now. So I've kind of gone full circle, but grew up on the Isle of Wight. Quite a poorly kid, to be honest. So I had a bone wasting disease in my hip, something called Perthes disease, which you don't hear of now. I think it was an 80s thing. So I don't know if they were putting something in the food in the 80s. So I had like 2 surgeries, 2 eye surgeries. Was told, you probably won't be able to, ride a bike or anything like that kind of normal stuff, which to me was like, okay, I'll be riding a bike then. So that kind of set me on a journey of basically trying to prove people wrong. Like all the time. I do have an authority problem. It's my kids have inherited it too. Annoyingly, because I'm the authority at home, and I'm really not actually. And then it was weird, really, because my dad was a real famous guy. He's on TV all the time, And so wherever you went, everyone wanted to meet him, shake his hand. Obviously, these are the days before camera phones and that kind of stuff, you know. So there's no selfies, but people would come and shake hands. And then suddenly, in what felt like that, you know, people were shouting abuse and laughing and whatever. And there were reporters camped outside the house, which as a kid was weird. And by this stage, I'd become like an all right footballer again, despite the fact I wasn't supposed to ride a bike and stuff. And I remember being at a goalkeeping school in London. It was Bob Wilson's goalkeeping school, obviously a very famous Scottish footballer.
Yep.
And there were all these, now you call them paparazzi, I guess, like just press everywhere. And I remember Bob saying, "Oh, it's because Pat Jennings is here." And now I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, well, Pat Jennings had probably been retired like 40 years. I don't know why, but it was why there'd be that many there. But they were there to get a glimpse of me and Dad, more importantly, which was really strange. And you know, they'd follow me to school and stuff like that. So my mum would have to give me a lift rather than walking to school. And they were offering money to, you know, some of my friends' parents, the ones that were skint, basically, to say bad stuff about the family and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm probably 9 years old, 10 years old at this point, and I've instantly been introduced to the media and how far they'll go to basically try and destroy and ruin people, you know, for what, you know, an opinion that maybe they thought was funny or they didn't like or whatever. And then, yeah. And so then I you know, went into music, ended up doing that for a long time, toured, you know, all over the world, tours in America and things like that. Didn't make it, but had a good crack. And then, I kind of found myself in this world of, alternative media accidentally, really. It's not something that I kind of thought I'd do. Like I remember my dad when I was a kid, he said he'd spoke to this person. This person said I'd work in trying to expose stuff in the same way that he did. And I remember being a kid just going, oh, fuck, I want to play for Derby. Like I want to play football. I don't want to be doing that sort of stuff. And now I find myself in it, you know. And now I look back on those times that weren't very nice as a kid, I've got to say. They were pretty brutal. As like basic training. Do you know what I mean? And I think the same with my dad. So like my dad now, like he will say what he believes to be true and let the chips fall where they may. Whereas I think a lot of people will either edit it because it will support them algorithmically or financially, or they don't want people to think they're mad or whatever. Whereas I'll just say it. If I believe it to be true, I'll say it. And I think that now at 43 is as a result of all that crap as a kid. You know, I like to think I'd be outspoken if I hadn't had that, but I don't know.
How did your dad handle it though? Because the Wogan thing, even when I see the clip coming up, sometimes it still upsets me.
It's cringe, yeah.
It's
weird.
It's heavy, and you can see your dad listen, laugh, ridicule, do what you've got to do. But he did go back on again. He did say, "Look, I was a bit sharp there, Wogan." He did say, like,
yeah,
and I respected that as well. He didn't have to do that, but it was because then if you're on TV, 20 million people, 30 million people watching, you are a target. And your dad says I was getting laughed at in comedy shows, people pointing to me on the street. And it must have been difficult, especially then, because I said to your dad a few months ago when I interviewed him, people are just repeating the same shite that your dad and Alex Jones and other people who were speaking against the kind of elites back then. People just think they've got new information, but it's the information that was provided 20, 30 years ago. So it must have been more difficult because people are still scared now to speak out.
Yeah.
And yet we've got a big following of people who are speaking out. So you're not as lonely. Back then it must have been a lonely feeling. Did you see the shift in your dad?
Yeah, I mean, he traveled a lot as well. Like he was always just researching and stuff. So we didn't see that much of him. And I moved out really early. Like I moved in with my sister when I was like 15. So, because I think I basically came out of the womb at about the age I am now. Like I've just always been that person. So just, you know, I didn't see him that much really in those days. But it is weird, you're right? Because I see it, and I thought this like a few months back, I was looking at what people were saying, like Tucker Carlson, like Candice and others. And I was like, these are literally like 2016 talking points that are being presented as, oh my God, bombshell breaking news, you know, and it's just stuff that my dad and others were talking about like way back, you know. It is weird, but you know, people are more open to stuff now than they were then. You kind of just got shut down then.
Yeah.
I think 2020, as much as like the COVID stuff was brutal and, you know, it destroyed businesses and, you know, suicide rates and alcoholism, you know, and they killed a lot of people as well in care homes and stuff. It was a horrific time, but it opened a lot of people's eyes up as well. And I also think once you've opened your eyes, it's very difficult to shut them again. You know, some people try, but it's quite hard to do that. And so I think although they, you know, put these impositions in place, it's sort of backfired a bit. I remember seeing a meme at the time, and it was like, I think it was like a point of view, and it was basically like you could see the steering wheel, so like someone's driving, and there's a cow flying, and it was like I was going to say something, but it's 2020 in it, and it kind of became a bit like that, you know. And so those things that people would look at my dad and say that is crazy, and now, you know, that's the news.
Yeah,
everyone knows that.
But a lot of people who say it don't really care about it. They just know it's generating views. And that's why we need to be careful. And I look at Candace Owens, and I used to be a big fan of her. I thought she's doing great. And now I don't think she's as good as what people think. Like, I really am questioning her. Same as the Charlie Kirk thing with his wife. Like, I've spoke to grieving people. And listen, people do grieve differently. But it's the fake smiles and the looking up in the sky and the Illuminati rings. And it's something doesn't sit right with it all. It's so strange. And like I say, everybody grieves differently. But with her connections with Trump and their connections with Israel, and I think she was running a fucking trafficking thing in some, what was the country she was running a trafficking? Well, I think Romania.
Really?
And she was then banned from Romania because of the kids were going missing. Like, it's so dark and so deep, especially with the Candace Owens thing, that like they all make out as if they're trying to help the world, but when you look at it as well, all they talk about is views.
Yeah.
I've had 1 million on my live or this, and I'm thinking, are you really promoting the right message, or are you just doing this for views and money?
That's it.
What do you think of Candace Owens?
I mean, I don't know her. I mean, like, she says some good stuff, and then there's other stuff that I'm kind of like, I'm not sure about that. But to be honest, like, I agree with that. It's this obsession with views. Like, and I've had these conversations with my brother, like, where we're talking about stuff where you've got people that are out there saying things and others that are saying things and getting algorithmic support and, you know, kudos for that and whatever. And we're getting a bit of ear-roll grief. But I made the point to him, I was like, you know, like when Nigel Farage or whoever it may be will tweet something and then someone underneath it will go, is this you, bro? And they'll show them like a receipt from something they said 6 years ago or 2 months ago, whatever. Like, is this you, bro? I said, Jay, has anyone ever done that to you? He's like, well, no. I said, well, there you go then. Because we're speaking what we believe to be true, whether it gets a load of views or whether it gets you a load of abuse or whether it, you know, gets you a pat on the back. That's not why you're doing it. And I think once you control the money that someone gets and the exposure someone gets based on what they say, then you can just steer them down that road. And it's real easy to do that. And so actually you don't even need to censor. Like, you don't need to ban someone.
Yeah.
You basically just incentivize saying certain things and decentivize saying something else. So people go, I know, for instance, when I do an episode of Trending in the morning, if I talk about Israel, I'll get probably less than half the views I would if I don't talk about Israel. So it's like, well, okay, so what do I want to do then? Well, I'll talk about Israel, but most won't.
We're living in a world of views, though. And when I first started, that was everything. You start doing well, you start making money, you start traveling, then you forget that. And I don't want to lose myself. You know, I'm at a stage now where I thought I was on the right path and I thought everything was making sense, but I'm at a stage now I'm questioning everything and everyone around me now again. And I'm thinking something's just not sitting right. I need to be careful, I need to be true to me, you know. And I could interview so many people. I've rejected so many alcohol brands and gambling brands because of my message, you know, but I did think about taking the money.
Yeah.
I did think, you know what?
I know what you
Does
mean.
it really matter if I'm promoting gambling? But yet, I'm talking about how it changed my life not being on it, but yet I want other people to fuck up their lives because I'm going again.
Yeah,
you know, you do think about, no, I would never do it, but I think about it. Like, I rejected that and I think where could I have been now, you know? And that's where money takes you.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking about it and I'm pretty strong, because I'm thinking, okay, if I just do that, and you try and contradict yourself and then you try and battle with yourself, but it's not that bad, and I'm thinking, nah, you're just a complete sellout, you know. And I think if you completely lose yourself, I think people can tell who's
100%,
sold out, you know.
100%. I think people know when someone's being genuine, whether they like what they're saying or not.
Yeah.
And I hope, you know, when people listen to things that I say, even if they think I'm a dick, you know, that they go, well, yeah, he's a dick, but at least he believes what he's saying. And I think that's something that people can tell. And you can put that even down, like, even if I say I'm going out with a couple of friends in Glasgow tonight. So say they introduce me to a mutual friend of theirs. You know, they can have a beer and whatever. I don't know that guy. But the amount of times that then that guy leaves and I'm like, that guy was so full of shit. And I don't know he's full of shit. I don't know the guy. but you know. You do, don't you?
Yeah.
Because it resonates differently. Like, you know, when you get the truth, it just feels different.
Especially with people in the UK. This is the thing, you can't fool us. People can see through bullshit. We're raised from the streets. Like, we are very in tune. Yes, we make decisions and bad decisions and good decisions, but we're very intelligent enough. Prince Andrew interview, prime example.
Oh, man.
99% of people have seen through his bullshit. Now, I've interviewed people who go through him and says he's guilty. I've interviewed Lady Victoria.
Oh, yeah, she really doesn't think it.
Yeah, she's totally backing him, but I've got to give her the platform as well, because she could be right. Because you've got to think about when your dad says all that and no one believed him. But with the Prince Andrew stuff, he's just completely guilty for me. Like, when I did listen, I thought, do you know what, valid reasons. If I interview people who talk about Christianity, I think, do you know what, you have valid reasons there. If I speak to people who are Muslim, valid reasons. If I go to a Muslim person's house, it's amazing. It's good vibes. They make you, it's very clean. They give you food. They're so kind to you. The same as anybody. They've got valid reasons for everything, but there's also extremists on every side. There's also bad people on every side who have an agenda, who are getting paid to promote, you know. So you've kind of got to be wary of everyone, but
everything's a minefield.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
nowadays
we've got it coming from all angles. You know, you have those, but then I suppose that's how you know, if I wanted to control the game, if I wanted to rig the game, you've got to control both sides, right? And especially when, you know, you've had this kind of awakening, and it's not even the COVID stuff, because I think the awakening was happening anyway, and you know, people can kind of, I guess, theorize what that means in terms of an awakening. You know, people think it's a very spiritual thing. Other people just think, well, actually, we've just had so much bullshit that we've learned to see through it now. But either way, whichever expression of awakening it is happening. And, you know, I think people sort of woke up, say on the political level, to the fact that it's a one-party state, right? It doesn't matter who you vote for, government gets in. Particularly in America. I think they woke up earlier in America, actually. So it doesn't matter if it's Republican, doesn't matter if it's Democrat, you're going to get the same shit. Everything, you know. I know, you remember those pictures that you see of like a bomb, and it would say a bomber with Republicans on it with, you know, bombs dropping, and then you'd have another one that'd have like an LGBTQ flag on it, and it would say Democrats, but the bombs are dropping as well. So it's just making that point that it doesn't matter. And then in 2016, they get given an outsider in Donald Trump. And so everyone's like, yes, and everyone gets sucked right back into that political game again. So people like Alex Jones and others that for their entire career were like, doesn't matter who you vote for, the government gets in, left and right, two cheeks of the same arse, are suddenly all in because he's an outsider. And obviously we've seen what's happened since. It's not got any better. And I think we're probably 4 years behind here. Suddenly it's reform. Now, reform are different. No, they're not. They're not at all. You know, if you're going to judge people, for me at least, judge them on how they act and what they do. Don't judge them on what they say, because it's real easy to say stuff. Like, I can sit here and say, you know, at the end of this, I'm going to take you out for dinner, James. I'm going to get loads of champagne and whatever. And you know, people can listen and go, wow, what a top guy. You know, he's well generous. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. You know, if I'm a politician, in fact, I'm probably not going to do it. And so when people are talking about Farage being, you know, he's spoken out against digital ID and all this kind of stuff, it's like, well, yeah, but you know, during COVID, he was whacking his pots and pans at 8 p.m. For the NHS, and Richard Tice was saying that NHS workers couldn't keep their jobs if they didn't get the jab. You know, Farage wanted Tony Blair to be vaccine czar. These are all things that happened back then. And I know, you know, having spoke to Andrew Bridgen said that he went to Nigel Farage and said, have you seen these vaccine injuries? Like, this is really bad. What's happening? This was early doors. And Nigel said, I'm not going to be talking about it. And if you had any sense, you wouldn't talk about it either. And this is the alternative. And you're like, are we really going to get sucked back into politics again?
But Donald Trump, he was the same. He was massive for lockdowns and the vaccine.
Mate. Yeah, and he's still pushing Pfizer.
Have they done anything? Robert Kennedy, because I was a big fan of him. I thought, switched on. I believe in that. The foods and the vaccines.
Totally,
I thought he's the man. Like, this is the man. And then when Trump came in, you do question it. It's his ties with Epstein that I've always questioned. Andy was massive for the lockdown. He put America into lockdown. He didn't let anyone in.
No.
So he was, if you're against the system, then why do that? I just think so many, now my concern is I think so many people were waking up with lockdown.
Yeah.
But then they brought in all the tranny stuff, and then all this schools, and then all the illegal immigrants, and then the transgenders can be in each other's sports. So everybody was talking about that. So when Trump comes in and stops things that are pretty minor, people then believe in them and forget what we were actually fighting for in the awakening, you know. And I think everybody's went back to sleep because they think they've got a saviour in.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is now dropping bombs in certain little places. People says he never started wars, which is great, but there's still a lot of damage gets done that nobody knows.
No.
You know, why do people then gravitate towards governments? Why do people want to be told what to do and how to think? I don't
quite
get it.
I don't get it. And I think that's sadly part of it is the tribalism. For me, like the two things that are the biggest danger to us as people is ego and tribalism. And I don't mean tribalism as in like find your tribe, but like that's fine, like looking after those closest to you and stuff like that. But I mean tribalism in the sense that you are so obsessed with your tribe that that's all that matters, that actually you will support that to the detriment of everything else. And we see that all the time now, where it doesn't matter what's being said or what's being done. It matters who's saying it and who's doing it. So if that party's doing something, then I'll support it because they're my party. And it's like, yeah, but if the other guy was doing it, you'd be going mental. And I found that a lot with Trump, like where he would do certain things and people are like, yeah. And you're like, dude, if Biden was doing that, you'd go mad. Like, rightly so, you know, and you see that a lot, and it is frustrating. And I think the other thing as well, in terms of, because you're right about the woke stuff, totally. But it's like, if I want someone to accept, because everything's a pendulum swing all the time. Like one side's winning and then the other side's winning, and it's like, if politics is going to work, then everyone has to be winning a bit. Otherwise, society's just pointless.
Yeah.
Because your side wins, you can punch the air, stick your finger up at the other side. Okay, well then what you're going to have is you're going to have a nation with basically 50% of the people disillusioned and disenfranchised. Well, that's a pretty shit country then. You know, so everyone's got to have a little bit.
Yeah.
But everyone's too busy winning. And so when the right's winning, they cancel the left. When the left's winning, they cancel the right.
The left and the right in the UK is absolute madness now.
It's madness.
I hate the divide. I fucking hate the divide. I know friends in all walks of life. I interview them in all walks of life. If you're good to me, I'm good to you. It's as simple as.
Same.
Like I say, when they talk, I go, that makes sense. But just because it makes sense to you, like everybody's brains are different. We've all been raised differently. We all support different football teams. We're all different skin colours. We're all different sexes. We're all different. We all feel different. So, like you says, it's about having, like, I'm massive for illegal immigration. I'm massive for putting stops to that and having the right paperwork, not just in the UK, but worldwide. I think it's just common sense. Have the right paperwork, know where you're coming from. Are you willing to work? Because when I go to places, I've got to have a passport. I can't leave the UK without a passport. Refugees, welcome, by all means. Legal immigration, welcome, of course, because there's legal immigrants everywhere around the world who do good. Illegal immigration has nothing to do with race. In my eyes, you've got Scottish, Irish, Polish, Russian, who went to America. A lot of the Russians and Polish come here. Like, it's nothing to do with race. I think as well, people are jumping on this sort of the illegal immigration to really fucking force their own hate. There is a lot of racists in the UK. You've got to, you can't skim over it. There's a lot of racism still goes on. A lot goes behind closed doors now. It's not like the National Front back in the 60s where they were just openly fucking racist. You know, I think it's, you've got to be careful as a father. I don't want someone who I don't know, who's not got their name or registered, to be near my daughters.
Yeah.
I don't want that. No matter what fucking colour they are, no matter where they've came from. You just need to know, because I interviewed a family who their daughter was raped. The man who done it was an illegal refugee, but he just fucked off again, so there was no trace. There's no courts, there's no, and that girl's got a life sentence with her family. So you can't then just go in protests against protesters who are protesting against people who are abusing kids. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you go to Epping and you've got people, family there, you've got women, grandparents, children who are protesting against people who are abusing children. Like, for fuck's sake. And then you've got people protesting against them. Like, there's no compromising. Like, open your eyes. Like, the guy who abused the 14-year-old got 1 year. The 3 guys who were protesting at Epping against the paedophile got 2 years each. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And I can understand the government don't want unrest, because the riots in the street last year, it was close to just being a civil war. It was close to being absolute mayhem. That's why they clamped down on it. So I understand with the sentences as well. They can't be running riot. They can't be vigilantes. But I just think a lot of people use certain things for their own hatred and their own gain. But the majority of people just are concerned parents. And I think we're getting labelled and racists and this and that. It does make people scared, but I don't think the labels are working as much as they used to anymore. But I just think with the left and the right in the UK, it's the worst I've ever seen it. But I just think the divide is what's killing us.
Oh, mate, I don't think it's an accident that they've picked now to try and introduce digital ID at the point where everyone is as divided as they are. I think that, that makes sense. It's like, attack the castle when their defenses are down. That's what I think it's about. But I agree, labels don't work anymore, because if you say something so much, if everything's racist, then nothing is. It's the same as, if everything's anti-Semitic, then, well, nothing is then. And it sort of dilutes everything. So you end up with a total nothingness, which is not good for any side. Because when you have real acts of racism and real acts of anti-Semitism or whatever, it kind of doesn't mean anything anymore, like it used to. Like I remember, like when I would speak out against the actions of the Israeli government, like going back, 20 years, and it was instantly you'd get called, Jew hater or anti-Semite, and I'd be mortified. I'd be like, what? And I'd do that. Oh no, I've got friends that, do that defense, because you're like, I don't want to be called that. Whereas now if someone says it's, okay, am I? All right. Don't matter. Because it doesn't mean anything anymore, because it's just been said so much. Although I think, to be honest, mate, I think they do want the riots. I think they do want the civil unrest.
Do you think so?
I do, yeah. And because this is why I think they're trolling. Like I see stuff all the time now, and I think, like, for instance, a 2-year sentence for protesting against a rapist, and the rapist gets a year. That's trolling. Like that is ultimate trolling. The 1 in 1 out scheme. So you've brought 55,000, I think, ish numbers into the country. You send one back, and then he's back on a boat within a month. That's trolling. That's trolling, because you can stop illegal immigration into Great Britain real easy. Like we're literally an island.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
It's a piece of cake.
Yeah, it's just the bottom of the island.
Yeah. Well, they're coming over the smallest part from Calais. No one's on a small boat in the North Sea. Like that's not happening.
You're not surviving.
No, exactly. So you just send not a big military man, but you a couple of Navy frigates out there, turn them around, done.
That's it.
Yeah, and then we can, we'll all go to Five Guys. Like it's real easy. The fact they're not doing it says to me that they want it.
Do you think that's to bring in the digital ID though? Because Sweden has digital ID, but yet their rapes are at an all-time high anyway. So it doesn't seem as if it's going to work with the digital ID, with illegal immigrants. So it tells you there's more behind it.
Yeah.
If you look at digital ID, I think Denmark, Estonia, I think Australia have got it. We know China's got it. Singapore. Like it is all around the world anyway. You're talking hundreds of millions of people, maybe over 1 billion people already have digital ID. That is coming here. Yeah. We're just Americans and the British are going to be the kind of last, because we're the ones who's going to try and make a stand to stop it. I genuinely don't think we will stop it, because I think the majority of people will comply. Listen, you can't get food, you can't go to your football matches. Football's the biggest thing why majority got vaccines. Fuck their jobs, fuck travelling. Like you can't go to football games. People go, okay, give me it. Like it's painful how manipulated we can be to follow their game and play their rules, and with the digital ID thing, like I say, with Sweden's had digital ID, Estonia's had it for, I think, over fucking 15 years. But these places, I think it would probably be a trial. Before it came here, I think I interviewed your dad, 5-6 years ago, and he says we're queuing up in Sweden to get implants in their arm,
in their hand.
Yeah, mad, so this was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think is the digital ID? What is the big agenda behind it? And why are people terrified of it?
I think they need it to be global for it to work. I think that's the point. So you start off with, for want of a better phrase, slightly more submissive nations. So you're Japan and you're China, where that is just a cultural thing, that they are very submissive to authority. And then you kind of end, I guess, with the nations like ours, where we're like, we have a distrust of authority that's kind of ingrained in us anyway. And so I think they want to build it around us. And do you know what? That's what they're doing now. Like, we're focused on Keir Starmer saying he's going to introduce digital ID. Like, first thing, he's not doing anything. Like, this is way above that guy. Like, he is just, Zippy from Rainbow. He's just an idiot.
A puppet.
He's a puppet, yeah. And, he on one level, he's working on behalf of Tony Blair, but Tony Blair's working on behalf of someone else, and someone else. It goes, whatever. But everyone's focused on the fact that he's saying he's going to introduce digital ID, when actually it's being built around us anyway. So, even Sainsbury's now is bringing in facial recognition in their stores. The Children's Welfare and Schooling Bill is essentially, that's in the House of Lords already, essentially that's bringing in digital ID for kids. Digital driving licenses are being introduced. This kind of stuff, the digital ID for people to go to the pub was introduced, I think, last year. Like, you can use it on your phone and all this kind of stuff. So they're building like the bricks around us, and we're focused on this announcement a lot, which I get. And then I think, if we're not careful, we'll get to the point where we're like, right, we need to fight back. Oh shit, man. Like it's
here.
It's here. I'm already in it, you know.
Because I do look at it as well. Everything's on my phone. I pay with my card. I pay with Apple Pay. I don't really do anything other than it anyway. Even I'd imagine when CCTV was coming in at the start, imagine people may have been scared. I don't really know. I wasn't really 80s. I was born. So when did CCTV? Probably 80s, 90s, really.
Yeah.
I would imagine people would have been scared that they're not tracing me. Big Brother's watching. Is it George Orwell who says that?
Yeah.
But I look at it now. I don't want it for the fact of the reason I want to live my life by my rules. I think I've got a passport, a driving license, a national insurance number. What else do you need? Now, if they bring in this control, if you speak out online about something that they don't agree with, you're not eating for that day.
Yeah.
You can't travel that day. And then we've got electric cars that they can push the button to stop your car anytime. And apparently the 15, 20-minute cities, which I've not really heard much of the last while. I thought they were going to be massive. I think
They're sneaking them in.
still.
Sneaking them in, yeah. So you'll see, there's a couple of places near me in Derbyshire where I've gone down streets and I've gone, hang on, and there's bollards and they split the street in half. It's like, why would they do that? They're just gradually just sneaking things in, building it. I think what they do is they push and they push and they push to the point where it becomes obvious. And then, like COVID, people are following arrows around bloody Tesco's. It was pretty obvious what was happening. So then people rebel against it. So they go, oh, back up, back up, back up, back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just wait for a little bit and they wait for everyone to get complacent and, go back to the football and all that kind of stuff. And then they just creep and creep and creep a little bit more. And each time they get a little bit closer to the goal. I think with the digital ID stuff, for me, the way I look at it is what the plan is to basically have an ultimate control system where what you say, what you do, where you go, what you eat, everything is all centrally controlled, right? And you can tie your carbon footprint into that of like, sorry mate, you can't have steak, you can't buy it because you've had too many, you used too much carbon this month or whatever. So they'll control it like that. And it's, a question like, is that how you want to live your life? Like in China, I think in 2018, it was, 23 million people couldn't use public transport because their social credit score wasn't high enough. Their compliance score wasn't high enough. They couldn't access bank accounts and stuff like that. And if you're happy with that, then fine, that's going to be the world you live in. I'm not overly happy about it. And the problem that you find, the apathy that you find from people, hear it all the time. If you're not doing anything wrong, you got nothing to worry about. Right. Well, one, that's so freaking naive, but also who determines what's wrong and what isn't? Because what's wrong and what isn't changes over time. Because if I went back to so you're an 80s kid like me, if I went back to say 1990 and said to, 10, 11-year-old you or 9-year-old you, whatever, you do realize that, by the sort of mid 2000s, women are going to have cocks. You think I was mad. Like, you laugh at me. And not only are women going to have cocks, but actually it's going to be a bigoted view and an offensive view for you to say they don't have cocks. So stuff changes over time, right? Because if, like I say, you go back 30 years, you'd think someone was mad for saying that. Now, yeah, that's the accepted, of course. Of course men can have a womb or whatever it was David Lammy said. It's just, or cervix, wasn't it? Yeah, men can have a cervix. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah, so stuff changes. So what is acceptable now won't necessarily be acceptable in 10 years or whatever. And this is what comes back to the whole tribal thing of winning. So you've got one side is winning now. So if you're, say, a MAGA fan, you're a right fan, you might think you're winning now in America. And so therefore what you say is fine. But no one agrees with the state on everything. They don't. So you had people overwhelmingly probably more on the right, although the left-right Overton window shifted so much, I don't even know what's what anymore. Yeah. But it was overwhelmingly the right that would stand up to the COVID tyranny. And you'd have those on the left that were almost cheering it on. Not all of them, of course, but, were cheering it on in a way and calling us, COVID idiots and granny killers and all this kind of stuff and celebrating our censorship, celebrating my dad being deleted off all these channels and all that kind of stuff. Well, you roll forward to now, a lot of those people on the left are probably more supportive of Palestine. So they would be supportive perhaps of Palestine Action or whatever. Now they're getting deleted and banned and deplatformed. And the people on the right are cheering it on. And so it's that tribal thing. Like for me, I believe in free speech, period. I don't have to like what you're saying. I don't have to agree with what you're saying. And this is coming from someone that has got a freaking load of abuse, over the years. Do you know what I mean? And I still do, nothing like I used to be fair. But you know, you can say horrible things about me and it's your right to say it. You know, I mean, I remember when my sister passed away, like literally the day she passed away, I was off social media, but I was getting notifications from people and I was seeing that people were sending me messages. So of course I was replying to them. And at some of the tweets, like there was one guy who was literally like, you know, how much of the responsibility for her death falls on David and like atted my dad and then atted me as if, you know, we had anything to do with my sister being ill. And it was like a real horrendous thing to say. And I was livid, mate, as you can imagine. I literally wanted to just reach my hand through the screen. But I was just like, block, done. I don't need to silence that guy. Like, I don't want to hear from him anymore because he's blatantly a dick. But I don't need to silence that guy. I don't need to report him and you know, want him deplatformed or even quote tweet him and send the hordes on him. Whatever. He's entitled to be a dick.
Yeah. But it's ego. Sometimes I respond and I think, fuck them. Like, I get ego.
Yeah,
sometimes it just depends what day they catch in. But I'm massive for free speech. That's what I'm all about. Say what you want. Hate speech. Could that really be free speech if you're hating on someone, like death threats? You know, I don't agree with all that. Like, have your opinion. Like, if I support Scotland, you support England, that's okay. I don't care. I'm not asked, you know?
Yeah.
Like I say, with the Palestine, Israel, I'm not educated enough for outside of the UK. I don't know. If I'm honest, I don't care because I just know wars have been going on for so many years. It's nothing to do with who's right or who's wrong. It's the people who fund both sides. I want to question the people behind the curtain. Like, for me, Palestine, 60, 70,000, 80,000 deaths, 1/3 their children. Like, that is a massive genocide no matter what way you look at it. The Israel side, I think there's 2,000 deaths. I don't agree what happened. Was it the 7th of October?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, but who's behind that, you know? And like I say, I'm not educated enough. I know we spoke earlier and Israel was British Palestine before it became Israel. So there is a lot more to the story. I don't know who's right or wrong. Like I say, I'm not educated enough to give my tuppence worth, but if I see someone get killed, for me, all war is murder. All killings is murder. There's nobody right there. No matter who you're for, no matter who you're celebrating, no matter what flag you're waving. If there's innocent kids getting killed in Palestine, Nigeria, whatever, that shouldn't be fucking happening. We shouldn't just be waving our flag and saying and supporting one country. We should be supporting the whole fucking world, every human being, every race, every religion. That people are getting harmed, for being nothing, for being free and not really doing anything wrong, you know. But I think we've got extremists all around the world who play their part and play other part in this divide, who are getting paid money for everyone to hate, and fucking nobody wins then, because we're banging our head against a brick wall and the people who are pulling the strings for everybody are just rubbing their hands and going, look at these fucking idiots.
They're laughing at us, mate. What pisses me off, to be honest, in terms of the Israel-Palestine thing, even if you're not educated on the history of it or whatever, is the moral, you know, the picking and choosing of morality I find very strange, particularly among kind of elevated people more on the right. Because I remember when October 7th happened. Now, you know, I'm a firm believer of the fact that October 7th was allowed to happen. Even, you know, someone like Charlie Kirk, who's a staunch supporter of Israel, is saying there were definitely stand-down orders. It's been mentioned in the Jerusalem Post, in the Times of Israel, talking about that. So there's something clearly was allowed to happen. But even if it wasn't, when it happened, the first thing I did was like, oh my God, that's awful. I tweeted at a friend of mine, Gal, who lives in Israel. I was like, mate, are you okay? Your family okay? He's like, yeah, mate, we're fine, like blah, blah, blah. I got called a Zionist shill, which for an Ike is like, I didn't see that coming. And then within like a couple of hours, it was pretty obvious what was going on here. So a couple of former border guards had already spoken out and said, this doesn't make any sense. Like, it took 6 hours for them to respond, the IDF. Bearing in mind, Israel is like the size of the state of New Jersey. What do you mean it took 6 hours to respond? The border guards were taken off of their posts on the border. And then, you know, I remember one of them saying if there was a cockroach near the border post, like, we knew about it. So there's no way they didn't know. And then it comes out that America warned them that it was coming. Egypt warned them that it was coming. In fact, someone had even warned them that the Nova Music Festival was going to be attacked. And an IDF commander went to the festival the day before, didn't determine it to be a problem, so cleared off. So there's an aspect of, was this allowed to happen in order for them to get the excuse and whatever to do what they've done and take the land, which is what they want. But at the same time, innocent people were killed, and that's horrendous. So then, you know, after a few hours, I started saying, like, this is going to be huge. Like, this is going to lead to something much bigger. And then I got called an anti-Semite again. I was like, I've been a Zionist Jew and an anti-Semite within 2 hours. That's pretty impressive. I'm going to wear that as a badge of honor. And they've gone on and murdered and murdered and murdered. And what I find abhorrent, to be honest, mate, is how you can justify the death of a child on one side whilst bemoaning the death of an adult or a child, whatever, on the other side. Like, all killing is wrong. And I don't see why that's so hard to say. And we went, particularly with the COVID stuff, because it tore the COVID movement apart, split it in half in terms of the resistance. There was people that I knew personally that I knew had gone to vaccine centers and shut down vaccine centers when they started the rollout for kids, because they're like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if I know these kids or not. I'm going to protect them. That was suddenly justifying kids having their limbs blown off. And you're like,
Contradiction.
how can you do that? Like, all killing is wrong. It doesn't matter who's doing it. All killing is wrong. And suddenly, you know, calling out the Israeli government became an anti-Semitic thing. And you're like, but I can call out Starmer. You call out Starmer all the time. I can call out, you know, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia. I can call him a head chopper. That's fine. No one's going to call me Islamophobic for saying that. I can call out Trump. I mean, I'll get a bit of abuse for that, but you can call out Trump. But you can call anyone you want, you know. Yet you call out the Israeli government for what it's doing in terms of killing people. And suddenly you're a bigot, and you're like, how did that happen? And I like, and even now, you know, so many influential people are out licking the wall again today. Like, everyone's been summoned out there. It's really strange, and it's dividing. Again, it's dividing everyone. And I'm wondering why so many people are going out there if they're patriots, when actually their own nation is, you know, we're in a war of our own in terms of fighting against digital ID and all this kind of stuff. And so for me, like, I was, you know, trolling all the tweets of you know, your Tommies and all these other people in the lead up to the digital ID protest in London. Not a peep. And I'm thinking, mate, you're over in Israel, you're doing your big wall thing, your propaganda tour, fine, whatever, you do you, hun. But at the same time, you've got a massive following in this country. You had, I mean, how many people it was at the United Kingdom rally?
Over 1 million.
Yeah, I've heard 3 million, I've heard whatever. But it's, either way, it's a lot of people.
Massive.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
If you just imagine if 10% of those people listened to you when you said there's a digital ID protest in London today. Do you know what I mean? So I don't understand why there seems to be this obsession with going over to this country in the Middle East, a country that basically, you know, was formed on the back of terrorism and blowing up the King David Hotel, which killed 93 British people, you know, and all that stuff. Like, you know, they were supplying the Falklands, supplying Argentina with weapons in the Falklands War. Everyone looks the other way on that, and you're obsessed with that. It's like, mate, you know, for want of a better term, I guess your country needs you guys. And so I find that strange. And that's dividing a lot of people as well.
When was Israel formed? Was it 1940s? Like, why are they so big? Why are they so powerful? Why is everybody talking about them? Why is Donald Trump touching the wall? Why is all the biggest names in the world touching this wall? Like, what is behind it?
$1 million question.
Was it run by the British Empire?
Yeah, so basically, essentially, the French and the British historically have got a lot to answer for in terms of the Middle East anyway. And so you had a situation where the Balfour Declaration was, if you've ever read the Balfour Declaration, which basically was written to the Rothschilds, basically promising them a homeland. But if you actually read it, to be fair, it says that nothing must happen to the indigenous population that live there, the Palestinians. But they've just, you know, taken over everything. I think on one level, it's like some hella, you know, religious, messianic, crazy stuff in terms of this biblical land of Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates in Iraq. That's what they believe is the biblical land of Israel. And, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu even said, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he's got this spiritual connection to the idea of the greater Israel. Saw soldiers in Gaza fighting with the Greater Israel map. You know, so there's part of that, and then you look at what the Greater Israel is. You're like, right, okay, well, it's part of Egypt, it's part of Saudi Arabia, it's all of Gaza, it's all of the West Bank, it's all of Lebanon, it's a large chunk of Syria, and then you look at American foreign policy, a chunk of Iraq. You look at American foreign policies since the 90s, and you're like, oh mate, that makes sense. And this is another thing that confuses me in terms of the patriotic movement that's against mass immigration. Like, I get that. Like, me and you are probably actually quite rare in the sense that we're against mass immigration, but we're also against the killing of Muslims in the Middle East.
Yeah.
For some reason, you seem to need to pick a side, which I don't.
Yeah, I'm not picking
Like,
a side.
not having that.
But I feel as if when I was watching social media, and I feel as if I was gravitating towards one, I had to pull myself back, because that's not me. I'm for everyone. I want a peaceful life on the planet, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, whoever you are. As long as you're happy, as long as whatever message you promote and you're not harming anyone, I don't care. I don't force your agenda onto me. I could be religious next week. I could be religious tomorrow, 20 years. I don't know what sort of cards I'm going to be dealt in life. But right now, I'm just that guy who just wants to question everything, and just don't take a side, James, because then you're no different. You know, and we need people to be awake and understand and compromise with people and just have some common sense. I think we're losing common sense, you know.
Massively.
You know, why do you think, like, Palestine and Israel has got so much media attention? Why they too? When you look at what's happening in Nigeria with the Christians, and nearly 100,000 people killed, nearly 20,000 churches been burnt down over the last few years. No media attention whatsoever. Yeah. But why Israel and Palestine? Why is that so popular?
Well, I think, you know, for one, it's clearly a significant part of the world for a large percentage of the world's population that follow Abrahamic religion, for one. But also, you know, I've asked that question too. Like, I've seen Israel getting vilified a bit in the mainstream media over the last 2 years. That never happened before. So my spidey senses are saying, what's that about? Because I'm seeing the media saying stuff they would never have said. Like, you know, they were killing, you know, thousands of Palestinians and like 500 kids, like 2009, 2014, 2015. There were these massive, and a little bit of media coverage, but it was always Israeli sided. Now suddenly that's starting to shift, which I question, you know, of course, because I'm like you know, question everything. But I try and look at it in a way that I just want, you know, sound like a hippie, but I just want what's best for humanity. And to me, Palestinians are human beings. They're not animals like the Israeli government describes them, and a lot of people seem to think they are. And so I find it strange that there's this obsession. You know, Tommy's over there at the minute, basically on a propaganda tour where he's just vilifying Palestinians. And it's strange to me because it's like you've got this huge movement of people in this country that are against mass immigration, which I am as well. So I get that. So they hate mass immigration, but they really hate Palestinians, who are the only people that don't want to come here. Like, they literally don't want to come here. They want to stay in their homeland. So that doesn't make any sense to me. If anything, surely you should be supporting those people, because it's like, if we support them, we should when like Tommy and others, Katie Hopkins and all of the, you know, GB News and a crowd were talking about the fact that it was horrendous that they were going to like trying to promote a Palestinian state. Well, if you don't have a Palestinian state and Israel gets all the land, which is what they want, what do you think is going to happen to those Palestinians? They're coming to England and they're coming to Europe. They don't want to, but they are. So why then? That's where my spidey senses are going, well, why would you then support the nation? And even while they're out there at the moment, you've got government ministers saying on live TV in Israel that they need to clear the Palestinians out of Gaza and move them into Europe. Why would you support the nation that wants to increase immigration when your whole shtick, your whole movement is being against mass immigration into the country? It doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of trying to figure that out, and I don't get it.
Why do they want the land so much?
They believe that it belongs to them. God promised them that land. I don't think all of them believe that. In fact, I think a lot of people that peddle the God's chosen people stuff don't actually believe that. They probably don't even believe in God, to be honest with you, mate. Mm-hmm. But it's a means to an end because it gets support from Christians because they believe that.
Again, it's a religion thing as well.
Mate,
religion is we talk about left and right, it's a massive divide, but religion is just as big. With the Muslim and the Christianity, like it's so big, and religion has caused a lot of wars. And I genuinely don't think the way we're living now, I don't think Muslims and Christians can live in the same country. I think there's over 40, 50 Muslim countries. I think there's a good few Christian countries. I don't think both can live together because both are trying to overpower. And I think there's so much extremists that they promote that message. And the thing about human beings, what I'm learning even more now, we are easily manipulated very, very fast. We are sheep, by the way, we're like so fast. We can watch a video and totally make up our mind straight away when you've only seen one video. You know, we can be gravitated so much. If somebody is so well spoken and talks with a set of balls, we go, yep, that's the man. Look at Tommy Robinson, Andrew Tate. Look at the following they can get because they speak with confidence. So human beings in a whole, I don't think they're asking the real questions. And that's where I'm at now. I think the whole world is a fucking mess when you look at social media, because people will just jump on the Ukraine flag because it's trendy. People will jump on Palestine, Israel. The news could promote something about Israel tonight and show a kid and a bomb, forever, an explosion, show a couple of kids, then people would gravitate towards Israel. Like the manipulation in social media, and I think AI is involved with social media, because I was watching it. Me and you can look at a post and totally see different comments, and the brain is a program. It does program you, so I need to be careful now what I'm watching. I've stopped scrolling as much now. I was 8 to 10 hours a day on my phone. You know, I was losing myself until I started stepping back. Now I'm starting to feel good again. I'm starting to really question why I started, because I was losing it. I was losing, I wanted popularity, I wanted the fame and the money, and you kind of lose yourself. And then I lost my importance. Stop being a fucking idiot. Go back to what you do. Do a little bit of research and then speak from the heart. Speak what you believe in. Sometimes you get it wrong though, but you need to own it. Go, okay, I was wrong there. I had the wrong information, and that's okay. But I think social media right now is dividing the world. I think with everybody on technology, it doesn't have to be a side. Well, it does have, because people are choosing a side from social media because of what information they're seeing on X. X is the most toxic fucking app on the planet. I don't give a fuck if it's free speech. I'm all for free speech, but it's all about fucking dead bodies. It's all about hate. It's left, it's right, it's Muslims are bad, it's Christians are bad, it's people get out the country and racist slurs, and X is so toxic. It's a great platform for free speech, but it's a different ball game. If you want to ruin your day, going on that for a few hours.
Oh, mate. But also, how many of those accounts are real? And, you know, you mentioned AI. How much of what people see is even real? Like, I've had conversations with people about various things. Yeah, but I saw it. And you're like, did you? We're at that point now. Which is freaking mad.
I seen a fat a pizza delivery man falling through a porch in America. And I was laughing because I thought it was funny. And it was fucking AI.
Yeah.
It wasn't even real.
No.
And I thought, why was that even on my feed? It was standing there, and I went to hold the pizza and they fell through the porch. And I couldn't stop laughing. I know I shouldn't have been laughing, but I've got dark humour.
No, I'd laugh.
And I started laughing, and they fell through it, and it was holding the pizza up. And I was looking at the comments. Sometimes I take a wee, and people are AI, and then I looked at it again. It was all AI.
Yeah.
It was all made up.
That's the thing. Like, I saw a video the other day of Donald Trump noshing off Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, it was like AI.
That's probably real.
Yeah, probably is, yeah. But no, that stuff's everywhere. Like, there's YouTube account, there's one YouTube account in particular, which puts out videos of my dad. And it's an AI voice, it's not his voice. But it's like hundreds of thousands of views per video. And I've reported it because it's saying words that he's not saying. You know, so for me, like, that's not free speech. You're claiming it's him, and it says in the title, like, David Icke exposes blah, blah, blah. YouTube don't give a shit.
But if it was your dad that was saying it,
yeah, they could tell us.
Took it off.
Yeah, and then some of it is like, you know, just almost borderline religious stuff, and he's not religious. And it's like, what the hell, man? Like, how is that even
possible?
Yeah, and how's it allowed? Like, it's weird because you can literally put words in someone's mouth. And, you know, it makes me think of The Running Man. You know that film, The Running Man, the Arnold Schwarzenegger
The
film?
new one's coming out.
Mate, perfect timing.
I'm going to watch it.
Because that film was like, what, 1987 or something? And they framed him for shooting all those people, didn't he? And it never happened. And they did it through, I guess, AI. It probably had a different name then.
But if you look at Total Recall, The Running Man, it's all coming into existence now. The Truman Show is massive, but there's a lot of films in the 80s and 90s that will make more sense now. Like you say, Running Man, Total Recall. Total Recall was massive, and I used to think, what the fuck was going on? Is it a dream? Is it real? I actually watched it a couple of months ago to understand it a bit more. When I just wanted to go somewhere else and they put an implant in the brain. How do we know we're not AI? Like some sort of computers were like,
I'm not convinced sometimes, mate.
I'm at this place now where I think, like, I've always questioned there's bigger than us, there's more than us.
Yeah.
But now I'm at a stage, like, because of technology and AI and people's voices and all these videos, I'm questioning what even the fuck is this? Are we just computerized? Are we just AI? Are we just machines, the aliens, the avatars? Like, it's such a deep question, because out of every single person I've interviewed, nobody knows. Nobody's got a clue what the fuck is going on. We can talk a good game.
Yeah.
We can try and be fair and sit in the fence. But that could be wrong as well. And we don't really sit in the fence because we do our thing, you know, we're out there and we try and speak from the heart, but you can get caught up in it sometimes. But I think I'm at the stage that I'm just fucking lost again.
Yeah. I mean, the simulation theory stuff's wild. Like, that is wild, because then you're really questioning everything. And it's kind of, for me, like, I'm one of those people that I rely on nature to kind of keep me sane, if I'm honest. So I walk a lot and explore a lot, but that's a freaking rabbit hole as well, mate. But then when in simulation theory, there's nature that I'm going back into, and I'm taking my shoes and socks off and I'm grounding myself in nature and I'm wild swimming. But if it's a simulation, that's all fucking computer generated anyway.
It's not real.
It's not real. So none of it's real.
Because they talk about it being a firmament, which was quite, I think they speak about it in the Bible, but it's like a dome. But
Yeah.
like a dome. A firmament. I always
But
get
they're
that
just
word
laughing
over
at us, man. It's the architect,
You
just
know,
laughing
like-
at us.
like someone as the creator, but with technology, and if we've been here for thousands of years, of millions of years, like they've says, the technology should be so advanced. But again, if you look back to Egyptian times and how they created things, if you look back at the old architects of the buildings now, everything's lazy now.
Yeah.
And how they've done them back in the day, it looked like as if a lot's been cut with lasers and other certain things. So has the technology does it get so advanced and then they kind of do a wipeout?
I'm
You know,
beginning to
that's
think
what
mate.
I'm at, where they maybe just keep 5,000, 10,000 of these wealthy families where they've got the blueprints.
Yeah.
I'm watching videos now of 50 Cent, and he's singing classical music. He's singing like music from the 70s in a different voice, and then that music's better than his actual music. So this is where my mind goes.
Yeah. Is there been great
Yeah,
resets before?
Do they
Basically.
create the reset, but there's also the blueprints of how to keep the wealth. Listen, we can maybe keep this for like 300 years, and then we can release this. Like, there's maybe a 5,000 blueprint plan of how to be successful and how to keep the wealth into all these families, because they talk about generational wealth only lasts 3 generations before someone fucks it.
Yeah.
But these people in these top families have created this wealth for many, many years, you know. So I don't know if the reset, in my mind, I'm going off topic here because I don't know, but this is where I'm at. I think maybe keep 5,000, 10,000 people on the planet, have all the blueprints of all the creations and whatever, all the textbooks, because if you go into the archives in the Vatican, under the underground tunnels, they're miles long with all these books. We're only reading books that were released like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We've not really got history books of 100, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody who wins the war rewrites history, even the stuff with Hitler. I went
mate,
down the rabbit hole and I thought, what the fuck, man? When I was listening to these interviews, I'm thinking, this guy's on it, but I don't know if it's AI. He was talking about signing a peace agreement with Poland, and he didn't want the polluting the cinemas and polluting their people, because Germany was the biggest trans movement in the world. It's where they'd done the first trans operation, and the burning of the books they're saying now is because it was all the trans shit they were trying to bring in school. So I'm starting to think, fucking hell, I never thought I'd be thinking, well, what side was Hitler on?
Yeah.
You know, and people can't, and I could be nuts, you know, and that could be just what I'm reading on social media, where they're saying, listen, dickhead, I'm just going to feed you this for the next 2 weeks and you're going to start buying into it. So I think we're in dangerous territory where I think with the information that we're receiving every day, I think we're the guinea pigs. I think we're really going to struggle mentally in 10 years, 20 years because of all this information that we're seeing, all these reels and all this bullshit. I think our minds are just going to explode. Yeah. And I feel sorry for the kids now who are coming up, because their lives are fucked.
Well, I try and protect mine as much as possible. Like if my daughters heard, they're 7 and 4, if they heard the word COVID, like they'd look at you like, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. Like, we kept them away from all of that stuff. But I think in terms of seeing stuff that makes you think a certain way, I think the trick is to kind of see it and go, oh, that is interesting. It's making me feel a certain way. Who would want me to feel that? And what's the end game? Like what's someone gaining from me thinking by that way of thinking? Mm-hmm. And then to go away and step away from the mobile phone and research it as best you possibly can. And that would be a thing I'd ask as well about, like you mentioned the Vatican. It was absolutely right. I mean, you had like the great library of Alexandria and all that stuff was taken. You had the great knowledge of the Cathars that the Roman Catholics, basically burnt them on Segor and all that stuff. And they stole that knowledge and it's all underneath the Vatican. You're like, well, if there's no dark agenda and no dark plan, let's see it. Let's see that stuff. Or does that stuff totally contradict the religious shit that you're peddling? You know, because if I wanted to control people, if I wanted to control humanity, I'd want them to feel pretty helpless. I'd want them to be asking someone outside of them, whether it be God or the government or whatever, for permission or how to think or what to believe. Because I certainly don't want them thinking for themselves. Like, I don't want them feeling powerful and significant. I want them to feel like a little cog in a machine that has to ask for permission from whatever.
I would love to see the blueprint. I would love to see the blueprint of actually how to live, of actually how it should be. And I don't think we should all be living the same.
No.
I believe we've got to be around people. I believe being around people become their best versions. I think a lot of us feel lonely now, no matter if we follow a religion or not. I think there's a lot of inner misery with people. I think we're so confused because there's so much noise, so much statics, vaccines and unhealthy foods and technologies and TVs and media. It's polluting the minds, you know. We're being controlled, and this is a computer chip.
Yeah.
And it stores everything, you know. And imagine, now the way I would probably look at a better life is and I think about it as having the nature and having the farmhouse and the kids and families and people around me I love around me, and building a community of nature and grow our own fruit and veg, because the sun gazing is so important for people. Energy, clean water. And I think you would become your true self in nature. Like when I run in nature, I do the cold water swimming, I feel alive.
Same.
More than anything, more than any drug I took, any gamble, any alcohol, any women, the nature thing, I just feel alive, and my mind's constantly fucking switched on. I'm tuned in. I don't think people can get that sort of luxury because they're so caught up in that little bubble where they're constantly feeling down, the vibrations down. And I was speaking to someone about the wind farms, and he was saying it keeps the energy out.
They're horrible, mate.
You know, like they
them.
keep the energy, and I didn't even know this. Like with the 5G towers are now putting all around Glasgow, but they're saying them British shores. I'd imagine all shores around the world have got that vibrant energy, but they're saying the British is the strongest. But the wind farms keep away that energy, and you've got the pylons with electricity, because electricity is free. It's everywhere. If we can tap into it and have that machinery to do so. But now we've got these big pylons apparently keep all the energy. The places with the most pylons, you've got high cancer rates, you've got suicides, you've got addictions. And I'm not saying it's that, but it did make a valid point. And I thought, you know what, that's pretty fucking valid, that.
Yeah. And no one seems to ask those questions of what potential dangers could come from that. Like if you go 100 years back, or even, God, geez, even less than that, and you look at how much electricity in terms of, you know, an electromagnetic field surrounded us, there was practically none. Now, you know, if you turn your phone on now, I mean, how many Wi-Fi's are you going to pick up? Double figures, easy.
Yeah.
And that's not, you know, counting, you know, other frequencies that are everywhere, whether it be, you know, emergency services frequency, whatever. Like everything, you're basically just bathed in this soup of radiation all the time. We don't know what that's doing to people. And then you've got, you know, Elon Musk, who people seem to love this guy. I don't get it. Putting tens of thousands of low orbit satellites in space to beam 5G on the planet. You're like, has anyone tested that? What's that going to do to people? You know, and I'll be honest, like, just quickly to go back to the bit, because you mentioned about that whole kind of, I guess that great reset, historical reset stuff. Like, mate, I'm on with that now. And it's funny because basically, like, this job, as you'll know, obviously, you know, you talk to people, and sometimes you can have a right laugh, and then other times it's dark, man. Especially if it's like, you know, satanic ritual abuse and child abuse survivors, and they're talking to you, and even like during COVID, like talking to vaccine injured whistleblowers and bereaved wives, and like honestly, it's hard, man.
Yeah.
And so I would, you know, go home, and sometimes like I'd pull up on the drive, and I'd literally like sit, and my wife would sort of look out the window and see I was home, and I would just be like, see 5 minutes, man, before I come in the house, because when I walk in the house, I'm dad.
Got to switch on.
Yeah, I just need to get that stuff out, and then I'm dad. And so my wife was like, look, you've been watching these videos of these like guys that go off, geeky guys basically on YouTube, that go off old railway lines and canals and, you know, whatever. Why don't you go and do that? Like, go and make some videos. You enjoy doing it, like, and it will keep you away from this stuff. So basically 4 days a week, or rather 6 days a week, you're immersed in this stuff, but you've got a day a week where you go out in nature, you make videos, and it's something that's just totally separate from this stuff. I was like, okay, I'll do it. It didn't take long, mate. Straight down the rabbit hole. Because at first I was seeing some of these structures, like as you've mentioned, I'm like, they couldn't build that today. Like, what the hell was going on in like Edwardian times and Victorian times? They can't do it today. And then a friend of mine was saying, oh, we go down some lead mines in Derbyshire, loads of lead mining in Derbyshire. And so I went down a couple of lead mines with him. Sort of, you know, you're literally like looking up and you're like, geez, like, it's, you know, now I'm literally just like, I'll walk a kilometre underground, like I ain't bothered. And now, like, I'll go to some places and honestly, mate, like they're cathedrals, mate, underground, like literally. And you're looking at them and they're enormous. And it's like, oh yeah, this was built in the 1700s by like malnourished guys with pickaxes. And you're going, bullshit. Like, not a chance.
Yeah.
Like, these stones are like cut to, like you said about lathe, like they're absolute perfection, mate. And they're piled up and they are like 10, 15, 20 meters high sometimes. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
I believe there's underwater cities in that. I believe there's these tunnels and there's cities under the ground. But why as well? Like, why do we never just keep digging to see what's under there? You know, to go straight down. Like, we're held with so much, there's so much information held back.
Yeah.
Like, I believe there's cures from everything from whatever grows from this earth. I genuinely do. I think we eat too much. I'm prime example of that. I know how fasting is so important for people, but yeah, I do. A lot of people have cured cancer. Now, I'm not giving people advice here, but from fasting for 5 days, 10 days, water fast to like shrink their tumours and stuff because all the fucking processed and chemical shit that we eat, like, there's just questions everywhere. But we need to be careful, brother, because we've got to live life. We can't be serious all the time. Like, these chats are heavy.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun and it's exciting and people will be going, do you know what? Yeah, I agree with that. Those two are fucking off their nut. And they could be right.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes I listen to myself and I think, James, fucking shut up and go and live. Go and enjoy yourself sometimes and switch off. But no matter where I go, I'm speaking to somebody about, because I can talk to anybody anywhere, no matter their beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, I'll argue with people online. I'll never argue with people outside when I have the conversation.
No, I don't either.
So if you were supporting something and I was supporting something else, I was just saying, yeah, but this is X, Y, and Z, and you could say, yep. And I'll go, do you know what? Fair point. I understand where you see it from.
Yeah.
Because when I interviewed Johnny Adair, I always mention him. He fought for the UDA, killing people. But he says, if I grew up a mile down the road, James, I'd have been fighting for the IRA. You know, so everybody's vision of life is about way the circumstances that they're in at that moment, you know.
100%.
Getting back to the kind of digital ID, Tony Blair's son, he's involved. He's got a percentage. If it kicks off, he's getting 350 million. Is that correct?
I don't know exactly, but yeah, I've always felt something weird about him. Anyway, I mean the Blairs. Anyway,
yeah. Well, he's had more blood in his hands than any other prime minister put together. He's killed more people than all the previous prime ministers put together. The Iraqi war.
Oh, mate.
Over 1 million Iraqis dead for weapons of mass destruction that he never had. The biggest cash robbery in history, over £1 billion in dollars, was took from Iraq. The gold, the oil, it's just all money. Saddam Hussein, he wasn't a fucking great, he wasn't the most peaceful man, but Iraq was running good. Yeah. And if you look at Gaddafi, he's done amazing for his people. Free healthcare, free education, gave them farmland. If they had kids, it would give them more money. It would give them free education if they wanted to travel and go to universities around the world. They killed him because he wanted to come away from the dollar.
Yeah.
You know, everything's money and greed, but with the digital ID thing and Tony Blair and his son involved, I think that ain't a good sign. They're not for the people.
Oh, far from it, mate. I mean, the weapons of mass destruction thing's interesting because, you know, you think weapons of mass destruction, they can hit Europe in 45 minutes, all that kind of stuff. You know, we think it came from Tony Blair and it came from Alistair Campbell and the sexed up dossier and all that kind of stuff. That stuff came from Benjamin Netanyahu. He'd been saying that for years in advance. And if you go online, you can find videos of him at Congress saying if you topple Saddam Hussein, it's going to be basically amazing for the region. He said the same about Gaddafi. He said the same about Assad. And you look at, you know, suddenly you've got slave markets in Libya and Syria is an absolute basket case.
Yeah.
And Iraq, you know, 1 million dead and the rest probably. That's just why it confuses me that everyone supports this dude. It's extraordinary to me. But in terms of Blair, like it's interesting with him because I look at politicians and I think, you know, some of them are just, well, I'd say they're all narcissistic for a start, but you look at them and you go, okay, you're in it for the power trip. You're in it for the money, probably the kickbacks and all that kind of stuff. You're in it because you're a narcissistic sociopath and all that kind of stuff. You're doing it maybe because of compromat. you know, which is one of the reasons why, like you asked earlier, why you think Israel's so powerful. I mean, the compromat they have on people through Epstein is one of the ways they have power, because they have blackmail against people.
Epstein was working with Israel.
He was working for Mossad, yeah. And, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell, who used to own Derby County, actually, the team I support, he was Mossad. And they killed him in the end because he started to go a little bit rogue.
Yeah. That's why I think they killed Charlie Kirk. He was pro-Israel. And then he started questioning.
He started questioning things.
And apparently he was going to come out with big information. He was very pro-Israel because I used to like him. Thought he's on it. He's on it. I like the fact he's questioning everybody. But again, that's another narrative. That's another choose a side. And I felt as if, but you can't be hating on everyone. Like the trans community, I've no issues with them. I've got trans friends. I genuinely have. I've interviewed them on the podcast. They're fucking nuts, but they don't want to read my kids' stories. If one was to phone up, James Yatton, can I stay with you tonight and read a story to your kid? I think, listen, fuck off. I don't want it to be in schools, because there was in 1988, Maggie Thatcher actually done something good. She brought in the Section 28 Act or whatever it was, which stopped speaking about like trans and gay stuff in schools, because kids feel lonely. They want to gravitate towards something. So if we're speaking about it so much, they'll think, okay, maybe that's what's wrong with me. If all, you know, they're getting puberty blockers and the boys are dressing as girls, like it's just wrong. You know, keep all the gay shit away. Be who you want to be. 18 plus. You want to chop your dick off? Go fucking do it. I'm not arsed, but just keep it away from the kids. Protect the kids. But I just feel as if
it's how much they push that stuff on people. Like I'm the same with you. Like I've had great conversations with trans people. It's for me, the trans people aren't the trans activists. The trans activists 99 times out of 100 aren't trans. They're just sort of, well, they call themselves allies or whatever, but they're sort of being offended on someone else's behalf. Now, I'm the same as you. Like you do you, hun. Like you just live your life how you see free, as long as it doesn't negatively impact other people. Go for it. And if everyone had that attitude and the respect for other people to do that, I think the world would instantly be a much better place, you know. And that is what's weird to me, is like when I was a kid, and I actually got called a lefty the other day because I said something about Israel, and this guy, he said it joking. It wasn't like, he goes, "You're such a lefty, dude." And I was like, no, the thing is, when I was growing up, like I was called a lefty, and I moved up to the Midlands, and they used to call me a southern softy leftist, right? And when I played ice hockey, they used to call me Swampy. Do you remember that guy who was an eco warrior?
no.
Right, but they used to call me Swampy. That was a nickname for me, because I was like, you know, I was on a soapbox about like whatever. My views are the same now as they were then, but now I get called far right from time to time. Like the Overton window has just shifted to such a point of extremes, and I think that's part of how they steer people, is they create the extreme. So you mentioned Charlie Kirk. Like people gravitate towards Charlie Kirk and others that are probably a bit more extreme, to say to the right side. They only gravitate towards them as a pendulum swing and a response to the lunatic stuff that was on the left. Like I think life generally is probably in the middle. It's a shade of grey. It's a bit of the right, it's a bit of the left, it's a bit of this, it's a bit of that. Very few things are black and white. There's a shade of grey in everything. I think people can think abhorrent things and say abhorrent things based on a real reason. Like legit. Like if someone sits opposite me and just says, like, "Oh, I hate Muslims," and go, "Oh my goodness me, that's like a horrendous thing to say," and then they say, "Well, I was raped by a gang of them for 10 years."
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I've got. Who the fuck am I to tell you that you're bigoted for that view?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should tie all people in the same, but I ain't gonna say anything to that, because you've not come to that view based on watching a YouTube video. You've come based on a life experience. Yeah. Because not everything is black and white, you know. But I think they push one extreme and it sends the pendulum back to the other side. And I think what will happen is it will go the other way again, where they'll start probably going too far to the right, and then suddenly then the world will kind of pendulum swing that. And it's just like the extremes. And so all we see is the extremes. When actually, when you go out into nature, or when you go out onto the street, like you made the point earlier, people fight on Twitter. Well, if by the amount of hate there is on social media, you would expect that when we go for a pint in the evening, everyone should be freaking windmilling each other across the pub, and yet they're not. People are just chatting, because real life's different. And so they're elevating these two extremes, and the people in the middle, which I'd probably consider me and you, to be fair, to go, yeah, I can take that, I can leave that, yeah, I can take that, I can leave that. We're the ones that almost get marginalized in a way, like certainly algorithmically, like I do massively, and I know my dad does extremely. And I think that's quite telling. Like, I think if you're on the right and you're barking about people on the left, you know, they're fucking, you know, purple hair, bloody whatever, you get elevated to hell. And if you're on the left and you're a total, you know, MAGAs are all racist scumbags, you get elevated as well.
Yeah.
If you're in the middle and you're going, mate, you're both getting played here, guys. Nothing.
But if we can make the middle trendy, it would make the world a better place.
Wouldn't it just?
It's a very small percentage, though. But I was gravitating. You gravitate because you see what's trendy, and I'm bad for that as well. You think views, if I promote that, fuck that. But then you're forgetting that people disagree with you, and it will upset a lot of people who don't believe in that, because I don't know their story. Like you says, I hate Muslims. I don't like Muslims. I like Muslims. But why don't you like them? Listen, I was in a Muslim grooming gang and they were raping me for 10. Understandable. It's the same as Christians. You look at priests and all the fucking nonsense involved in this shit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's bad in every religion, every walks of life. But we're living in a society where I think, like you say, it swings every 48 years anyway. And now we're going so far right. Yeah. And people want to jump on it as well and be trendy. So fair play to the left as well. But when you do look at the people on the left, they are quite, there is something quite amiss as well. There's no compromising.
Oh,
then
yeah.
again, could they say that about the people on the right? But I'd like to think it's people on the right are more concerned as well. Like, I have got a lot more views from the people for the right, I'm honest. But when I look at the left, I think like they look unwell, and not everyone, but they're shouting and screaming and they're causing riots, but the police don't do anything. But if you are right, then you are the problem. But I do agree with a lot with the right as well, with the illegal immigration and free speech. But there's certain things I think I don't want to choose a side either.
No.
So, but again, it's like a contradiction, because I want to see it. But if I was to look at it, I think the people who are protesting against the protesters, against people who are abusing kids, I think, how can you be doing that?
That's weird.
You live here, like, it's not, are you just mentally disturbed where you can't really see it? Because there's a lot of people with mental health. You can see that online as well. And when you look at these people on camera, they're full of hate. It's all with the hair dye. They're quite overweight. And they're angry at something. I just think they want to be angry at something. But in reality, we should all be working together. What do you actually think of the killing of Charlie Kirk?
I think the only thing that I'm certain of is that the FBI are lying. Like, the official story, I'm not having it at all. There's too many inconsistencies. There's too many things that don't add up. And I think this again comes into that whole, you tell people, the most dangerous thing for me in terms of how we're controllable is when we're told what we want to hear. Like, that's how they do it. So as soon as it happened, right, I did a show and I said, we don't know anything, but I think I said I can guarantee, or I'm fairly sure they will try and blame it on a leftist, and they'll probably throw some transgender stuff in there, right? And there you go, he's a leftist with a transgender partner or whatever. Because that then tells the right, people that support Charlie Kirk, and generally the people that tend to question authority a bit more at the moment, because you tell them what they want to hear, they're more likely to believe it. And so a lot of them have, not all of them at all, but a lot of them have. And I think that's quite dangerous. And I think we've seen that a lot we saw it with the COVID stuff. And I know my dad's spoken about it before, in the sense that they give you something to quench your kind of suspicions in the way that, like, when the COVID thing launched, because it kind of was a launch, wasn't it, to be fair, like a brand new product, a lot of people bought it, and a lot of people went, I'm not sure. I think I'm being lied to here. I think there's more to it. So they go, okay, we'll give them the Wuhan lab then. Give them the Wuhan lab story. So then they go, I knew it. I knew there was something going on. I knew there was something more to it. But what you got with the Wuhan lab story is the need for lockdowns, the need for vaccines, all that. So nothing actually changed, but you did that. And the same with Charlie Kirk. There's people just going, who could it be? Who could tell them that it's a trans-linked crazy leftist, because you've got a problem with leftists and you've got a problem with crazy trans folk. So you're hearing what you want to hear. So yes, I'll believe it. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe it was that for a minute. I think, even down to the fact that you didn't have a crime scene. They didn't, and then they rebuilt the whole area and concreted over. I'm not an investigator, but in terms of like a police investigator, but I'm not sure Colombo would allow you to basically not tape off a murder scene and then concrete over it within a week.
But there's a lot of conspiracies. Some people say the little thing he had in his chest shot up So the neck was actually the bullet coming out. So I don't know, man. It's all smoke and mirrors. The wife thing is
weird,
it's
mate.
really strange for me that her behaviour's fucking very strange, and I think she is actually happy. If I had to be honest, I think she's enjoying it.
I've never seen a memorial for someone, a young person being murdered in front of their children that has pyrotechnics. Like, that's not normal at all. And I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a funeral director, a guy called John O'Looney, lovely bloke. And he said to me, he goes, mate, he said, I deal, like everyone grieves differently, like you say, but I deal with and have dealt with hundreds and hundreds of grieving widows over the years of being a funeral director. Like, never seen anything like this in my life. Like, this is extraordinary. And even Trump, this was so strange as well with Trump. Like, within 24 hours, he's at a Yankees game doing that. It's like, you describe that guy as like your son, and he's been murdered, and you're giving it that. Like, that's weird. And then when the interviewer says to him at the White House, you know, have you, how are you holding up? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, we're building a new ballroom. Like, what the hell? That's your son has just been murdered.
They don't have any empathy.
They don't have any empathy, mate.
Because what that does is cements they're in the right. Right side is the right side. They're on the right side of history, so it makes it out look they're coming for us for speaking out.
Yeah.
People fucking left, right, white, black, brown, Chinese, whoever the fuck you are, get killed, get raped. There's paedophiles in all fucking walks of life, you know? It's not just targeting Muslims. Not all Muslims are bad. There is a big problem with the grooming gangs. Majority of fucking nonsense here in the UK are white, you know, because it is a predominantly white place. I think there's 90% white people here, so the numbers are going to be high. Like, I don't want to target everybody.
No.
I just want to target the bad.
That's the problem, mate.
Educate and go, do you know what? You don't have to really choose sides. We can have a discussion with it. But the whole thing is weird. I think they don't have any empathy. I think it's all some sort of game. You don't even know if it was a fucking who he was. You don't know if it was a replica. You don't know if he's still alive. You don't know why it became such a big game show. 2 days later, they're having fireworks and she's got the fake tears, and she's then took over
the Charlie Kirk show.
Yeah, she took over.
USA.
Yeah, Turning Point. She's now a president of it. And then it links with Trump. It's just all very strange. It doesn't sit right with me. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe she's just a grieving widow. It's just wanting to keep his name alive. But there wasn't many photos or videos of Charlie Kirk's mum and dad. And I don't know. She's very suspicious, being the beauty pageant, and then the links with Trump.
But
and
it's Trump's beauty pageant.
Yeah.
I think she's Jesuit educated as well, isn't she? And I think, you know, Trump was as well. So there's connections that go further back. And
she was in Israel a lot.
Yeah, and will be, I'm sure. You know, I don't think she's allowed to lick the wall because I don't think women are allowed. But, you know, I'm sure she would be if she was allowed. It's very strange. I'm with you. Like I say, I don't know what happened, because other people that say he's not dead, and that, you know, he's going to turn up again with a Jesus hologram to, like, basically try and, you know, bring this second coming stuff. Yeah, but do you know what? The moment, like, the world is so mad that I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't know. You know, if the fake alien invasion comes tonight, you know.
Project Bluebeam.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that really makes me laugh. It's like, you know, you go back, I don't know, say 20 years, you had this kind of main conspiracy theories then were like your
9/11.
Yeah, you had that, but then in terms of like the conspiracy movement was very UFO heavy. You know, it was all, you know, Area 51 and Roswell and all that kind of stuff.
NASA.
Yeah, and so you go, you know, the fake moon landings and all this kind of stuff, and you have a situation where if then there was you know, an alien invasion, or whatever, a fake alien invasion, like the normie folks would just be like, this is madness, like aliens don't exist. And the you know, the conspiracy theorists would be like, no, aliens are real, you know, we've been studying them for years. Whereas now, if there was a fake alien invasion, the normies would buy it, and the conspiracy theorists would be going, it's not real, it's not real. Like, it's flipped.
Yeah.
Like 360. Like,
it's like
find
left
that
and right. I think the left became the right, the rights became the left.
A little bit.
I think it's nobody knows. It's just, these are labels.
Yeah.
Instead of just, don't put me in the label, just question. This is the way I see the world at the moment. Like I say, it could change tomorrow. I could speak to someone who could convince me that I should be Christian. I go, do you know what, I'm away. I'm going to go and pray to Jesus and buy the Bible.
The Lord's,
you know, do you know what I'm saying? But I don't fucking know.
No.
I'm at a stage now. I'm questioning everything a second time. Again, I've questioned everything from school. I questioned 9/11 because when 9/11 happened, I'm only a young kid. I've interviewed now men who've went to sign up for the Navy SEALs because of 9/11. And it's not until 20 years later, 15 years later, they start
they
questioning
realise.
and go, shit,
Yeah.
my head is fucked for what? Same as people who went and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You don't, because at that moment it felt right. 9/11 was perfect example to go and fight for your country, be patriotic. And that would happen here if it was a massive terrorist attack with thousands of lives lost. The majority of the British would sign up because a lot of people are patriotic because when they follow their football. I don't think it's as patriotic as the Americans though, because when they play their national anthem, they're all fucking crying.
Oh, mate, don't.
Like, they go nuts.
Don't.
Like-
I remember being in New York watching a New York Rangers game, and I didn't stand up for the national anthem. And this guy next to me, I didn't even know him. He literally grabbed my arm. I was like, fuck, I'm not American.
Yeah, I'm
like, you
English.
still stand up.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
bloody hell. All right,
They're
mate.
patriotic, so
Yeah.
if they were ever going to go to war, they'd be the first to sign up. But I think the British are patriotic. But I just see now with the Gulf of Tonkin incident and 9/11 and all these false flag events, I'm now thinking I ain't fighting for no cunt.
Nah.
You know, unless anybody comes through my door,
Yeah.
then I'm happy to pick up a machete. But right now, but if people were going to invade Scotland, I would still grab a rifle and,
Oh, I'm the
boots
same,
and
yeah.
help
I
protect
think
my
everybody
own.
has to
You
protect
know,
your kids,
yeah.
yeah.
But I think I'm at the stage I ain't fighting for these cunts.
No,
You know?
I think the false flag thing is the concern of mine at the minute, because I look at digital ID, the idea of introducing it because of illegal immigration is bollocks. It's total bollocks, and it's not going to get through. You know, unless basically your likes of Farage or whatever totally sell out and flip flop, which they could, but I don't see how it gets through Parliament, because even Labour having a massive majority with a tiny percentage of the vote, but even have a massive majority, there's a lot of Labour MPs that oppose digital ID. So unless they all get whipped into action, I don't see how it goes through. So then you go, well, what if, two scenarios, what if that then becomes Starmer's poll tax, basically? So Starmer falls on the sword of digital ID, he's done, Labour get demolished at the next election, Reform come in because they would almost certainly win the next election, they certainly would if it was today. They win the election and then they suddenly bring in digital ID because we have to, but it's not the same as what Labour wanted to do, it's different. And you trust us because we're outsiders, remember, and we oppose digital ID. How many people would go, well, I didn't really want it, but yeah, they make a good point and I trust them. So they could try and do it that way. The other way they could do it is through emergency legislation off the back of a terrorist attack. Because you look at the Coronavirus Act, that went through like that, and MPs voted on it having not read it, like no chance.
Yeah, they don't read
They
anything.
didn't read any of
They
it.
want their wages.
Yeah, and so they signed off on it. It went through, and then a few MPs afterwards went, "Oh, hang on a minute. Oh yeah, you signed off on it. You didn't read it." And they were starting to speak out against the dystopia, and you're like, "But you all voted for it because there was an emergency. Oh my God, everyone's dying." You know, which turned out to be absolute nonsense. But they created that fear, so people took it. So what if you go, it's not a case of bringing in digital ID to stop illegal working, because that wouldn't stop illegal working anyway, because
They're illegal.
they're illegal. The whole thing about being illegal is they're not following the rules, as an employer or as an employee. But if it's a case of we've had these terrorist attacks, there's terror cells all over the shop. They've come in from Palestine. There's always blame a Palestinian, that'll help, or Iran or Russia or whatever. We need digital ID so that we can stop people from getting into shopping centres, schools, because I'm sure they would probably try and go for kids because of the emotive freaking backlash you get from that from the public.
My daughter's getting homeschooled, but the schools now are doing trial runs.
Yeah, for lockdowns.
Yeah, for lockdowns and locking the doors in case there's terror attacks.
Yeah.
So something tells
priming
me
us with something,
there's
mate.
something coming, and I hope they fucking don't use schools because people will jump on what they're selling.
Yeah.
You know?
Digital ID, because we need digital ID to know what you're buying.
Protect your kids.
Yeah, because if you could be buying fertilizer for fertilizer bombs, we need to know what everyone's buying at what time. You can only enter a school, like I say, a shopping center, a football stadium. You have to have digital ID. Like that. That's my. Not that I don't like fear. Don't even like the word fear, but that's my concern. That's how they'll try and do it. And if they did something like that, and it was across the country, coordinated, 20 Southports in one day. Could you imagine the reaction of the people?
Yeah, I reckon we're only one Southport away for it just going tits up.
Yeah.
And people going mad, because look at the outrage then. Do you know I put a photo of that kid who done that to those girls and says off of his head? Do you know the police came to me and says you would have got 2 years in prison for inciting violence? You were so close to it. And I says the the guy's the monster's a kiddie killer. What the fuck are you talking about? So that was like a warning. Be careful what you're posting. And I thought, what?
Imagine sticking up for that guy.
Yeah, I don't even think the coppers, I think they just follow protocol. They must go, fucking hell, man, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But I just thought, wow, imagine getting 2 years for that.
Mate, I speak to police officers fairly regularly. Actually, throughout COVID, I started speaking to people that would just email and message. They message all the time. Like, what the hell? A lot of them took early retirement that I'd spoke to. They're like, I can't do this anymore, man. Like, this is bullshit.
Hard job they do, the coppers.
Yeah,
and I always sing their praises. A lot of dickheads out there, but there's a lot of dickheads everywhere. So
yeah, there is.
But what they have to go through, they see more destruction than probably people who go to war. They see it in a daily, and they're there for 10, 20 odd years. Like, they're not just seeing gunshots, they're seeing suicides, rapes, and kids being abused, and car crashes, and the abuse that they get. And now everybody's on TikTok trying to embarrass them. And I was at court at my friend's trial a few months ago, and the copper was giving evidence. But you'd think the copper was corrupt or bad, the way he was getting interrogated. Like, you're thinking, fuck me, like, he's flapping. And I'm thinking, maybe he did do it, but these guys are doing a job catching criminals and then have to prove themselves when they go to court, you know, and then they've got all the paperwork.
Well, that's why I don't get the abolish the police, all coppers are bastards thing. Because it's like, okay, so you're getting mugged. What are you doing? You're finding the police, mate. Like, there is a place for that to protect, as long as that's what it is, you know. And a lot of coppers are good. I mean, I've got neighbors that are coppers. They're lovely people. They're wicked, you know, they're really cool. But then there's others that aren't. And that, I think, is the issue that people seem to have, which is what creates this divide, like you mentioned earlier, where people hate Muslims. It's like, mate, there's a lot of Muslims. There's billions of them, right? There's cool, sound, awesome, welcome you into the house, feed you ones. There's ones that, he's all right. Yeah, he's all right. And then there's dickhead ones. And you can apply that to Christians and to Jews and to the left wing and the right wing, straight, gay, fucking whatever, like every single demographic. And if I think we as a society judged people on themselves instead of this whole label thing, like you see all the time where people are like, you know, I'm, you know, fucking, I'm gay, I'm disabled, I'm Gareth. Like, fucking hell. I don't need all that.
He,
shit.
she, he, yeah.
So whatever, just... You know, just be your individual sovereign self, like whatever you believe, you know, in terms of religion and afterlife and whatever, and God made me or I'm worm food or that. It doesn't matter. You're only here as you once. Like, you're only James English once, even if you believe that you live 1,000 lives and get reincarnated, whatever.
Yeah.
So just live that to the best that you can and be the best person that you can.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like I say, I just think we're living in a stage where everybody's trying to force their agenda. Like, be who you want to be. Like, I'm not genuinely fucking asked. I don't care who you want to be. But even with, I think the majority of gays and transgender, they just want to go on with their life. They just want to do their own thing and just go on with their life. But then you'll get the extreme ones who, a very small majority, will have the biggest voice, you know, and it'll cause the most mayhem. But I just think we need to be careful with all the hate towards each other, and sometimes I can get caught up in it and start calling people pricks and wankers. But
it's hard.
I'm a human being, you know.
It's hard though, because some people are pricks and wankers.
Yeah.
You know? I think like I had a like a parents' evening with my eldest, and the teacher was like, we've got like a little community school, and she was like, you know, she didn't even really go into the academic side of it. She did a bit towards the end, but the main focus was she's really kind. And she's like, and all the other kids, like, they really love her, and they come to her and they you know, they talk to her and she consoles them. And I was there, like, I was welling up. I was like, that's all I want from my kid. Like, if they're straight A student, but they're mean, I don't want that. I'd rather just a kind, nice, and, you know, get Fs and give a shit. Like, because if you're kind, like, that's like, if you apply that to the world, if people could just be kind and respect each other. And yeah, I disagree. You know, I disagree with what you're saying, whatever. Anyway, what you having?
So see if digital ID comes into play and people accept it here. What's going to happen to the people who don't accept it? How damaging can it be?
Well, that's the thing. I think for me, what we need to do is we need to oppose, you know, we were talking earlier about the fact everyone's focused on the introduction of digital ID whilst they're building the prison anyway. So it's focusing on these things and getting organized in that sense, but also having a conversation with yourself of like, what am I willing to give up? Because you're going to have to give stuff up because they will target you. Football, for instance, you can't go to football, you can't go to the pub, you can't go to Benidorm for 2 weeks in the summer, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you go, okay, all right, well, I'm willing to give all those things up. So that's fine. Like, and if you're not, fine, go and do your thing. And I think you will get to a point of maybe a little split, a little fork in society, you know. And I'm fine with that. Like if I have to live like Amish family, it don't bother me.
They do well. They don't have any they don't have any diseases or nothing. There's no TVs. They build their own houses. They're sweet.
I'd rather my kids were climbing trees than partaking in this bullshit anyway, to be honest. Like, so it's then just the question of whether you would be allowed to do that. Like whether they're so obsessed with this Hunger Games society they want to build that they won't allow there to be a district that doesn't play along. But for me, like when I look at digital ID, because I have conversations with people, I don't see why it's a problem, I don't see why it's a problem. I'm like, the thing is, you've got all these different things that they want to introduce, whether it be the social credit score, whether it be the, you know, carbon, limiting what carbon you can have and all that stuff. None of that functions without digital ID. Like digital ID is like, I was saying, it was like, basically it's the pizza base and all the toppings are all this dystopian shit that they want. But without the base, you've just got a really freaking messy kitchen that doesn't really function and doesn't talk to each other. Whereas when everything is in one central place, you know, especially when you put in facial recognition, it's not even a case of, you know, because they're selling this ID card. It's not an ID card. It's not a card that you'll hold in your hand and show it like a driving license. That's how they're trying to sell it. That's why they're saying brick card. Because it's just a card. Well, so I've got plenty of cards. No, that's not what it is. It will be done on facial recognition. And you'll get to a point where you'll turn up at the checkout and oh no, that he's not allowed it. And it's also like, it's not been lost to me how long this is being built. Like you're an 80s kid like me, so you remember there were no card only automated checkouts when we were kids. Cash. You dealt with a human with cash. And then suddenly, there's a couple of automated ones. There's a couple, they're nearly all automated now. And they do your facial recognition, like your face is on the thing. And that will become all of them. And even, you know, Amazon was doing that in London with stores that you just walked in, did your facial recognition, then charged your Amazon account without having to do anything. And then the other thing that I think, you know, people sort of didn't necessarily notice is suddenly, you know, when you go into a supermarket, you'd have like your steaks and your bacon, whatever, your meat, generally, refrigerated meat, fresh meat. It was there and you'd reach in, you grab it, put it in your basket. Now they're all behind doors. Now, that's sold as a way of preserving the temperature, keeping the temperature so it uses less energy. You go, okay, but what about when those doors lock? So you go in, you go, I fancy a couple of sirloin steaks. It's wife's birthday, a couple of sirloin steaks. That'd be, sorry, mate, not allowed them. And because the door won't open. And then suddenly, because everything's automated, it's not like a human like you, where I can go, James, mate, come on, go on, it's Gemma's birthday. Go on. Oh yeah, go on then. Fuck it. Have a couple of steaks. You're not having that conversation with an automated till because it's an automated till. It just says yes or no. You know, like Little Britain, computer says no. And that's the thing that I would say to people. Like, if you're happy with that, if that's the world you want for your kids and your grandkids, go for it.
You see in China now, people sleeping on the streets because they've missed payment or they've said something online. Like, it's nuts. And that'll happen here. Look at the amount of shit people speak online. So if they don't like you, you're a target. You're going about in your ass, no food, because of the social credit score.
I wonder if that's part of what they've done in terms of allowing people to say the things that they've said on Twitter.
To cause the chaos.
Cause the chaos, yeah. But also...
So when it comes out, there's going to be more people struggling because they're used to speaking shit?
That, and you know... Who's to say that the
could they bring up things from the past?
It won't be retrospective. Exactly, because this is something I've noticed. Like for me,
I'm fucked in.
Well, so am I, but that's fine. And I've said that. Like I'm not complying. Even if, you know, I'm getting folded into a duffel bag and chucked into a reservoir, I'm not complying. That's my end. That's my end.
Fuck them.
But you know, I did notice just after like October 7th, particularly, is people started talking about the Jews. That never really happened before. Like, I have never done that. I have a problem with the state of Israel, and I have a problem with rabid Zionists And I have a problem with rabid Zionism, which is a political movement anyway. I have a problem with the Jews. So I was, as if the guy at the deli is like responsible for the blowing up of kids. Do you know what I mean? In the same way as if the Muslim guy who works in the shop on the corner is responsible for the grooming gangs. You know, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I've seen lots of that. And I remember having a conversation with my brother and with my dad about it. I was like, I don't like it. You know, people should be free to say what they want. But I get the feeling that there is some manipulation going on here, that people are almost being goaded into saying things so that then retrospectively things can be introduced. Well, one, you can say that anti-Semitism is at the highest ever level or whatever, which they're already doing. You can kind of push that agenda. And then you have attacks like you had in Manchester, and you go, see, this is where this hate online leads. It leads to real harms. Therefore, we need to crack down on X, Y, and Z. And I just, you know, I do wonder if that's going to be part of it, what people have said online.
But I feel as if whoever controls the system, they are very advanced. They do get what they want.
They understand human
time.
nature.
Yeah,
They do.
They understand the human psyche.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of human beings, we don't really understand the mindset. Like, it's such a powerful tool. It's such powerful where it can be fucking guided through smell, frequency. It can be guided through. Have you ever seen the movie? I think it was Will Smith and the girl, and they put a bet on with this man, but he kept seeing the number 7. They put the number 7 up in there. It was like subliminal messages. There's subliminal messages everywhere. So he put a bet on, okay.
7 red box.
Yeah, you go and pick. There was like all the football players out in the foot. What was that cult, man? The Wolf of Wall Street. The girl was in that. So she was in a movie with Will Smith. So he knew he was going to see this guy, but the day before he kept like playing music, like sounded like 7. He had 7, number 7 everywhere.
Right.
So there was football players out in the back, and he says, if you pick the football player, pick a number. And he says, I'll guess the number you're going to say. And he says, I'll give you odds of 10 to 1. And they're placing millions of pounds. And he says, what? So he turned round, binoculars, picks the number. Well, and the wee Chinese man says, what's the number? And Will says 7. And his face was shocked because there's fucking hundreds of players out there.
Yeah.
And he got the number. So the subliminal messages, you know, like this, the mind is so powerful, but yet we don't tap into it enough. But I feel as if whoever controls the system, controls the media, they know how to tap into it, where people then fight and hate and divide, you know, because they've done a study with the brain that is 50-50 on the world. That's why there is labels. That's why they've got left and right, because the majority of people want to gravitate towards a side.
People want to belong.
Like us, me and you in the middle. We're the 0.1% to then question left and right. I agree with the right. I agree with some things on the left. I do think there's a bit of a madness there, but then is that because I've been manipulated to think that way as well, you know?
Oh, I think there was a bit of madness there. I think there's a little bit of madness on both sides. Yeah. I think, you know, just as an example with the COVID stuff, it was all behavioral insights team. It was all psychologists. And that's no mistake. Like, I remember driving around the country to protest and stuff, and I'd have the radio on, and they'd have someone on there talking about, you know, COVID vaccine uptake or whatever, and, you know, lockdown needs to be another 2 weeks and all this kind of stuff. And then they'd finish the interview, and it'd be like, that was the head of psychology at Imperial College London. And you're like, in what world? Like, if I believe the narrative, give me a virologist, give me a vaccinologist, give me a, you know, what, epidemiologist, whatever. Give me some, whatever. Why am I listening to a psychologist? You wouldn't say that's Dave, the chiropractor from around the corner, because you'd be like, you know. And so the fact that it was ruled by psychologists, I think, was important, because they were, you know, controlling people's behavior. And I don't think that's just limited to COVID. That's everything, by controlling how people think and how they're going to react to stuff. They know, I think sometimes they know us better than we know ourselves. Yeah, in that sense, you know.
I do think they're 10 steps ahead. No matter what even the stuff that we're catching up to now, I still think they've already planned 100, 200 years ahead.
I think they probably have.
You know, so whatever we catch up to, they're thinking, well, we'll give you this, think you're winning, but wait till you see what's coming in 5 to 10 years. And I don't think there's been many periods where there has been much peace. I read a book that says it was peace for like 500, 800 years back in the day, where there was no wars, there was no destruction. And hopefully we can get back to that. We do need leaders, but they need to be pure from the heart. They need to understand that it's a level playing field for everyone, and not just your side, you know, because we're all different. What do you think of Elon Musk?
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him at all. Like, I'm one of those people, it's nice when people say things that you agree with, but then it's how they act and what they do. So you've got him saying that, you know, AI could be the death of humanity. Well, I agree with him, but then he's pushing it constantly, and he's putting, you know, the satellites into space, and you're pushing all the electric cars. And so you've got people on the right overwhelmingly that know the climate change stuff is bullshit, and they love Musk, but he's pushing that climate stuff as well, and he's talking about needing carbon credits and this kind of stuff. So for me, I judge him on what he does. And I also think in terms of Twitter, I don't see Twitter as a free speech platform. I think you can say what you want, but people can't necessarily see it. And he says that himself, you know, it's that freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. Well, that's not freedom of speech then. Everyone should be allowed to say what they want. And if people want to see it or hear it and follow it, then they should be able to. But to go, okay, everyone's allowed to speak, but we'll suppress those voices so no one hears them. Well, that's not free speech then.
Do you actually think he writes his own tweets?
No. Not at all.
Surely he's
There's
not
no
on
way.
Twitter all
There's no
day.
way he can do all the things that he's supposed to do. Like, he runs all these different companies. He's on Twitter constantly. He's off, you know, to Israel or wherever else he gets summoned, left, right, and center. There's no way, man. I think he's probably just a front man.
They all are.
Yeah, I think they all are, yeah.
Anybody who's out on the stage like that. But I just found it weird between him and Donald Trump, the kind of outburst with each other. Plus, Musk had the black eye as well. We know about the panda eye now. It has links to some dark stuff, but it's very weird how Trump says he was going to expose the Epstein files to then saying there's nothing on those files.
Yeah.
When we know Trump's relationship with Epstein, and then Elon Musk put the tweet out that like Donald Trump was on the island. Like, that's some fucking crazy shit, that.
Yeah.
Between those two.
I think the thing is, when you get people at that level of, you know, narcissism, because that, I mean, Trump is absolutely one. They all have personality disorders, all of these people. They're going to bicker and argue and have little petulant fights amongst themselves. And then they, you know, it kind of then just gets put under wraps and everyone carries on. I think everyone, you know, they probably get given their orders and told to behave by the real bosses. And then, you know, it goes back to the status quo. But I think, you know, I said straight away with the Epstein files, like, I was like, you're never going to see them, mate. Like, they ain't going to release them. And then you get called black-pilled and, you know, Trump derangement syndrome, which I do believe is real, by the way. I just think it's something that tends to be prevalent inside his supporters a lot of the time, to be honest. But I said, you're not going to see it. I said, because one, that dude's on it. Like, all day long, he's on it. And you know, they come back and they're like, if he was on the Epstein files, then the Democrats would have released it when they were in charge. You're like, well, not if they're on it as well.
Yeah, they're all
on it. They're all on it.
The Bill Clinton stuff's mad.
Oh,
him and Hillary Clinton's, they're dark people.
Yeah.
Like her emails. I don't know how legit they are, though. Remember that a lot of the shit that gets put online, anything can be altered.
But that's
anything
where
can
they
be
do. I think
changed,
that's
you
what
know,
they do, though.
to confuse the masses.
Yeah. Well, they did it with the sexual abuse inquiry in the United Kingdom, where you had genuine abuse of kids by politicians in the 80s. And then, you know, so there's all this stuff going on, and then you have a couple of testimonies that were lies, and they get elevated massively, and then they get shown to be wrong and disproven.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, oh, it's all bullshit. It's like, no, those two were planted there to discredit genuine.
It works.
Yeah, it does work.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does work. Yeah.
It works. What do you think of like, the satanic stuff and the human trafficking? Because I've interviewed so many survivors, and a lot of people are oblivious. I do be envious of those people in that bubble who don't question everything, who don't hear the stories. Like, I don't know what the damage it's going to do in 10 years. It's fucking hearing horror stories, and our brain doesn't know what's real or what's fake. So if you're watching a movie and seeing all this dark shit, you don't know. You can't really separate it. We do the nature things. And because our minds are quite complex, men, like, nobody really knows how the fuck we're thinking or what's really going on. We talk a good game. I think we're very convincing all man to just be fine, you know, but when you hear those stories, you think, what the fuck? Like, some dark stuff, like, from kids and 1 week old, and I'm thinking, like, it's a lot, you know, and like, how dark do you think the world is with all this?
I think, to be honest, like, I think if we genuinely, like, you know, went into a room, like, Clockwork Orange and we had our eyes held open and we had to see the genuine shit that goes on, I think we'd be in a padded cell, pair of us, mate, just rocking.
Yeah.
I think it's so
Damaging to the brain, innit?
yeah. And I think this is something that people really struggle with in terms of exposing what's going on in the world. Like, not even stuff that is that dark, but you know, take 9/11 for instance. When you talk about 9/11 being an inside job, I don't think necessarily it was an inside job just by the United States. I think there were other nations involved, multiple nations probably. And you go, and there's definitely a Mossad connection to that, 100%. But you go, it was an inside job. People go, they wouldn't do that. The Americans, well, they killed 3,000 of their own. They wouldn't do that. You're like, dude, you wouldn't do that. But you wouldn't have sex with a week-old baby. But I guarantee that's probably happening somewhere today.
Epstein Island.
And they look at you like, oh, and you're like, yeah, but they get my point. Like, you're judging society and what people are capable of by what you're capable of, which is kind of beautiful in a way that you see the world like that, but that's not how it is. So, you know, look at the fucking lost profits guy. Like, people like that exist.
You look at doctors and that, they're prescribing prescriptions that they're not making, not really knowing what's in them, because they're getting the textbook for all these years to be programmed to do what's right. And whenever you get the orders, you just dish it out. They're not really thinking, well, wait a minute, what's really in that? What is the destruction? If somebody comes to me with mental health, instead of giving them pills, let's find out what he's eating. What do you drink? Do you take drugs? Are you going through stress at the moment? Are you seeing your kids? Are you working? Are you exercising? Are you in nature? Don't ask those questions.
Don't give a shit.
We don't get here, there you go, there's a prescription because I'll make £25 from that. And if I give out 20, 30 of these a day, I've got my day's wage. You know, and I'm not shooting down doctors because they do amazing, well, they think they're doing amazing. But it's the people to then, you've got to think outside the box, because I've interviewed enough whistleblowers who've lost everything for speaking out against the grain NHS whistleblowers, because everything's fucking backwards, C-sections and cutting the umbilical cord, and it's darkness. The world is controlled by darkness, and I only see it because of the people who I interview, you know. And like I say, I'm not shooting down doctors because you do amazing. Well, you think you are doing amazing, but it's the pharmaceutical industry kills more people on this planet.
Right.
You know, I know drug dealers. I grew up with drug dealers. I sold drugs when I was younger. So I'm willing to destroy life to benefit mine for maybe a few £100 a day. Imagine these guys who are making trillions. Do you think they give a fuck about you?
Mate, the organ harvesting shit is the next level within Big Pharma too, man. Like, that's fucking mad.
The brain dead stuff.
Mate, so like I've interviewed quite a few people on that, and I had one interview with a woman called Heidi Klesseg, an American lady, and she's an anaesthetist. That's her gig.
What's that?
Basically, you know, knocks you out essentially before surgery. So she'd go in and obviously have to work out, you know, body weight and whatever, you know, so they don't give you too many drugs, but then you don't wake up on the operating table with your belly open, whatever. Like, I think it's kind of quite a complex thing. So she said it was her first day on the job, and she's got the consultant that's saying, right, okay, so we've got this body, person's dead, but they're, you know, they've been on a life support, but the life support's about to be turned off, and we need to basically harvest the organs, and, you know, there's a helicopter on the helicopter pad on the top of the hospital. They're going to take whatever organs away to put into whoever. So she's like, okay. So she has to do something in terms of drugs for the body so it doesn't, you know, flit around while they're trying to take things off. So so she writes the list of drugs she's going to administer, and he checks it, and he says, oh, you've not got any pain relief on here. So she's like, but they're dead. I wanted any pain relief. And she's like, just make sure I put some on. So she puts some on, and whatever happens. And then she starts to question it. And so now, like, she writes books on this, and she talks to loads of people. So she's basically saying brain death didn't exist. Brain death, or the term brain death, was invented for the organ harvesting industry, which is worth trillions worldwide. So if someone's dead, you can't harvest their organs because the organs are dead. They die with them. And if they're alive, well, that's murder. So you can't do that either. So they invented something in between, which is called brain death, which is like there's basically no brain activity. So essentially they're dead, but they're not, because their heart's still beating, blood's still flowing around the body. So they're not dead, but they're brain dead. So they invent this, right? So then she's like, does this huge study of hundreds of people, patients. And she's like, you know, I think it was like most of them were dead, essentially, and they died. but there was about 200 just in her study alone. She said they live normal lives. Like they were pronounced dead. And they're married with kids now and they live their lives. And she said there was one particular one which was really harrowing. So she says basically there's a guy who has a motorcycle accident, and she said it's horrific to the point where he's got brain coming out of his ear. Like this guy's fucked, basically. And he's pronounced brain dead. The helicopter's landed, and the doctor is saying to the family, you know, we're going to take him into the operating theatre now. He's dead. We're going to take him into the operating theatre, and obviously, you know, he's an organ donor, whatever. But the brother's not having it because the brother's, you know, what's your brother? It's your brother, right? And the brother's like, no, this is bullshit. No chance. No, fucking no, no, no. So they leave the room, and he's like, anyway, the guy moves, responds. So he goes running out into the reception. He's like, nurse, like my brother's just moved. Bear in mind, they're preparing the operating theatre. And they're like, oh yeah, no, yeah, we were taught that. That can happen sometimes. So when they come in to wheel him away, he's like, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound now. So he basically slams his keys into the bottom of his foot. And basically the brother practically sits up, throws a fucking haymaker at him. So then they're like, oh my God, he's alive, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's married with kids, settled down, fine. And when Heidi Klessig interviewed him, he said that he was conscious of everything in that room and could hear the conversation where the doctor is explaining to his family how they're going to harvest his organs. And you're like, fuck, could you imagine being like unable to move and hearing that? Like, that's some horror film shit. Yeah. And she said, this is happening everywhere, particularly in America. Like, this is happening everywhere. It's dark, mate.
Yeah, the satanic individuals, because it's all money. It's great. Money's an illusion. I've said it for years. It's an illusion. There's no value to money. It's a paper. It holds no value. The value we hold in here, but the destruction that we cause with money, the greed, the killings, the murders, the destruction, people kill for it, people die for it.
Yeah.
There's no value to it, but yet we've been conditioned and programmed to feel as if, listen, we need it to survive. It's an energy currency unless you've grown out your own crops and you're living in nature. We don't really need it. But we've been so ingrained to believe in this is the one thing that everybody should be fighting for. We've gave up our life. We're slaving ourselves for this paper that really doesn't have any meaning or any value to it. Like we've got... Look at those people who are harvesting, people who do the human trafficking with kids, the drug dealers, people who sell alcohol. We've got bigger drug dealers in our supermarkets than we have than people who sell a wee bit of coke. If you look at the foods and alcohol and the cigarettes and the vapes they're getting sold, it's all fucking toxic. Do you think they give a fuck? Actually, tobacco is good for you if it's used the correct way. Same as the poppy fuels, the same as the coca plant, the cocaine plant, the fucking... If manipulated in a wrong way, it can be a negative. But if manipulated in a positive, it can be good. And there's so much research that tobacco is good for you, but just not the way we smoke it. No. You know, and I just think the greed is what's poisoned our soul. Like the Charlie Chaplin kind of speech, I think it was the Great Dictator, and it just made a lot of sense. And this was in the 40s, and Charlie Chaplin was supposed to have been a bit of a bastard.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I think his wife was very young. People say he was a paedophile, but I don't know, but his speech in that movie, The Great Dictator, was unbelievable. He's talking about machine minds and operating from all these people higher power, getting told what to do, how to feel, how to think. And I think that's the position we're in now. I believe they are ahead, but with the child trafficking, I've interviewed enough people to see how dark the world is, and they don't have any empathy whatsoever what they do to these kids. And it happens a lot more than you think. And sometimes these wars are created to get the kids as well, you know.
Oh, well, I bet the number of kids being trafficked out of Ukraine is fucking off the charts.
Palestine.
Yeah, well, you know, people can look into that in terms of the stealing of organs from Palestinians. It's not a new thing. It's gone on for a long time.
Who do you think controls the world? Who do you think actually operates it? Now we know about the Rothschilds and the banking systems, but do you think there's bigger behind them? Could there possibly... more intelligence behind them? Because I've interviewed people who spoke about Antarctica. They says there's not human beings, but they says there's other beings out there.
They wouldn't surprise
control
me,
the world, who are so advanced. When I look at Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they're quite alien. They've got alien tendencies. I'm not saying they're aliens, but they're quite freaky looking. But who do you actually think controls it? Who do you actually think's pulling the strings?
I think, to be honest, I'm of the opinion now that if I can point to them and say their name, they ain't in charge. So whether that be Klaus Schwab or Tony Blair or Elon Musk or Donald Trump, whatever. If I can name you and I can recognize you, you ain't the you know you're not the head of the snake. You're going to be further down the pecking order. The idea that it comes from something that isn't human wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm at that point where I look at the lack of humanity, the lack of human decency that you would need to have to be able to be the architect of what is happening around the world. That ain't no human shit, mate. I don't think.
How there's wars and how there's destruction and how people are suffering, and how we could be 2025 with all this food that we waste, but people are starving. I think there's 1/3 or 2% of the world with not clean water. Like, even ourselves walk by homeless people. I do homeless work, but I still forget sometimes that is a human being. Like, how are we in today where we're walking by other humans? There's a lot of con artists on the street who pretend to be homeless, but they're still grafting for their money. But I'm talking about the people, the veterans, who have been jumping to fight for their country because they think they're doing the right reasons, when nobody really gives a fuck what they're doing.
No.
Because who was interviewing? Melvin Downs, SAS guy, black guy. And because his dad used to get terrorised with the National Front, he was a black man coming over in the UK in the 60s and 70s. So Melvin's going to fight for his country, British flag, patriotic, but these people are hating on his skin colour and carrying his flag in the UK, but yet they hate him while he's the one risking his life. I just think everything's so confusing, and the world doesn't have to be that way. I genuinely don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. The peace and harmony and everything's just, do you know what, everybody take a break. Like, everybody just, there's no wars, we don't have to send soldiers. Like, it must be heartbreaking for a soldier. Look at the people in even lockdown,
being dragged away from my family,
and then people dying, and then coming back with PTSD, because no human should be seeing that. It's not a human thing.
No.
So it tells us that the mind shouldn't be seeing it. We shouldn't be seeing what police say every day and fire brigades. Yes, accident happened. It's okay, but I'm just talking the whole destruction of the world, and I don't know if it's to do with the energy, because they used to have bells everywhere around the world. In the UK, we used to ring the bells, and it used to give out frequency of good energy, but now they smashed all the bells down and everybody's quite low. If you actually walk along the streets, people are quite depressing looking, they're quite grey.
But they're all looking at the phone.
Yeah.
They're literally, everyone is just scrolling. Like, I occasionally I'll see someone on the tube and they're like scrolling, there's some interaction going on, but most aren't. Most are like that, and they're like dead. Looking for a dopamine hit. Someone like your post. Like, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm online, of course I am, like, we do this stuff, but I think if I wasn't doing this, I don't think I'd be that bothered about it.
Not asked.
To be honest.
That'd be a beautiful thing. I think that's freedom.
Yeah.
I actually look forward to that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, fuck it, I'm just going to go all out and get cancelled. Because I feel as if it'd be a sigh of relief, but then again, how can you try and...
But then you've got to try and You're on a mission at the same time.
A contradiction. Because I want to move away with the dogs, have more kids, just grow my own crops, fucking grow my pubes and my hair and not have to worry about shaving. Like, I think, do you know what, that turns me on, that, like, have my little lake and just grow my own fruit and nice dinners and log fires and nature. And But then again, I want to be in the game. I think, fuck it. I want to fight against something. I want something ingrained with me. I want to learn and educate. But with the knowledge that I'm getting, I've got it here. I can't put it into words of what I'm thinking. My vocabulary's not that great, but I understand the way my life or other people's life should sort of be to make the world a better place instead of all the divide. And listen, I still watch your football. I still tell people to fuck off. I still get angry, but I just know it could be run better. How do you think people can break away from the system and actually live a better life? Because even though we know all this and ask the questions about it, we still have our moments, we still battle. We do the cold water for a reason. I know why I do it, because I know what it's like up here, and if I don't do it, I don't know where the fuck I would be. So how do you think people break away from it and actually try and lead a better life?
I think everyone's got their own way of doing things. I think just finding joy in stuff is so important. Like, I know that sounds dead cheesy, but most people don't. Like, most people have pretty joyless existences, really. It's always like on the get up, work, home, dinner, kids to bed, hour of death in paradise, bed, repeat to, it's that kind of grind. Whereas I think, like, for me, like, this sounds stupid, but when I was PTing, I used to work as a PT. And I'll be honest, as a PT, like 90% of the people didn't hire me to make them fitter. They hired me to sound off.
Friend, I was a PT.
Yeah, but it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You would hear like, and the amount of times people would leave a PT session, they're like, oh mate, thanks so much. I feel so much better now. And I'd be like, that fucking hell.
Yeah.
Like I'm drained. Like I've taken on.
Oh, your drama, you can't.
Yeah, I've taken on all your drama. And I remember speaking to a friend of mine in America who said like, how are you? And I was like, yeah, I'm all right. I said, be honest, like, fuck me. Like, I'm just like, I'm a bit of an empath and I'm paying for it right now. Like, seriously. And so she was like, what you need to do, she said, 5 minutes a day, YouTube videos, fat people falling over, cats and dogs fighting, whatever, just stupid shit. And I was like, what? And she was like, no, trust me. And that's what I did. Just like, again, it's online, but I just laughed for 5 minutes a day. It just stuff that was just stupid. And it made such a huge difference, mate. And I'm one of those people, I find it fun. Like, you like football, I like football. I'm less into football than I used to be, but I still love sport. I love ice hockey and I love the Rangers, and I'm going to watch an ice hockey match tonight in Glasgow. And every time I put something up from a game, or if I'm with my daughter watching the hockey, I can guarantee, James, like in the first 3 replies, bread and circuses. Guarantee it. Yeah. Every time. And it's like, and that's fine, but I like bread and I like circuses. Mm-hmm. As long as I know it's bread and circuses, it's fine. And I think that's a problem that people have in this realm, is they don't find joy. Yeah. Because they almost, they feel like if they're finding joy in bread and circuses, then they're part of the matrix. Mm-hmm. And others feel that, well, when the world is the way it is, why should I be enjoying stuff? Like, I feel guilty. Kids are being blown up in Gaza and I'm here watching a hockey game, eating popcorn. It's not right. You're like, yeah, but you need to find joy in stuff, because there is joy out there.
And human beings are amazing. If you look at the Olympics, the way the human body can go and the stresses that they put under. But I'm the same, because I was passionate against football. If Celtic get beat, I used to fucking hate it. I didn't want to be around anybody else unless they supported Celtic. But then obviously you start questioning it. Like you say, the bread and circus thing, you think, it is the bread and circus. Like, feed them bread and water and they'll not ask real questions. But it's okay to go and support someone and watch their craft. Just don't let it consume you.
Exactly.
Don't be 24/7 Sky Sports News crying if they get beat. Who gives a fuck? Yeah. Like, it's okay to go and watch things. Go and entertain yourself. It's entertainment for a reason. Just be careful and just don't try and watch other people live their dreams and ambitions either. Try and do your own thing. But people can come and support you and people can come and watch you. Like, I need people to be sitting on their ass or else they wouldn't watch this. But I still tell them to fucking get out and go a walk and try and do better. Yeah. But it's like a contradiction all the time, Sometimes I'm back and forth with myself and I think, yeah, you're pretty on it, James. You're a bit of a genius today. And then other times I think, nah, you're just fucked as the rest of them.
But that's okay. Yeah. Like for me, like I broke my tib and fib. And my dad always says it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Because I started to basically go down a bit of a spiral, really. Like, me and my girlfriend, she's now my wife, but she went off to university, like a 5-hour drive away, and my band had just split up, so I was just a bit rudderless, really, mate. Yeah, to be fair. And I was playing football still for a bit of fun, and I used to play beach soccer for England for 5 years, but I wasn't playing internationally anymore, so I basically got to a point, James, where I was like, everything that I've done in my life that I would be proud of was in the past. Like, I'm not doing it now, and that became a bit of a shit. Like, I'm not, everything I talk about, like, oh yeah, I did this, I did that, it's always past tense. And so I went a bit rudderless, and I was getting booked and sent off in football matches, which wasn't me. I mean, I was quite a tough, like, I remember getting sent off and ripping my shirt off and throwing it at the ref. So what a twat. I know. Yeah. And it was one of the first things that my girlfriend at the time, like, saw on me do on the football pitch. She was like, fucking hell. That wasn't me. And then I broke my leg in my next game, and I basically just was lying in bed for a month waiting for this surgeon to do the op, and because it was pretty bad. And I went through all these emotions, as you do, and stuff, and ups and downs, blah, blah. And then in the end, I just got to the point of like, I'm all right, me. But as a person, I mean well, I try hard, I'm sincere, I'm honest. Make mistakes, fuck up, can be a bit of a twat, but who can't? Yeah. And you're almost like, I think we're too hard on ourselves sometimes as people. I think we beat ourselves up probably more than society beats us up. I need to be better, I need to be this, I need to be that. And I remember like, and maybe part of that is growing up with a famous father, to be honest, that there is that element of pressure because, and it didn't come from him, far from it, but you know, when I started being a footballer, it's like, oh, you chip off the old block. Yeah, your dad was a pro, you know. And then even when I was playing in bands, it's like, you know, you're on stage, like your dad's on stage, chip off the old block. And it was always like this, not rivalry at all, but almost like this need to, you know, basically not just be, oh, fucking hell, David Icke's a waste of space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember I was going through all these different things. I was going to do this, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And I remember my dad one day was going, Gaz, you ever thought about just being? Like, just be who you are, yourself, and try and be something all the time. Like you're flitting from everything to try and, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Have you ever thought about just being? And what was mad is I was probably about 25 at the time and I'd literally never thought about that. I'd never once thought, just exist.
Being in the present.
Just be. You know, what's this need for validation? From who? Because you already by that point, I got to the age where I didn't really give a fuck what people thought of me.
Yeah.
So why do you now give a fuck? Like, I was a complete contradiction. I don't give a shit what people think of me, but I really want them to love me. Why?
I think that's society pressure though. I think it's always trying to do something and try and fit in and try and be liked.
Yeah, maybe.
How important is family life for you?
It's everything, mate. It's everything. Yeah. I mean, it's why I do it, like, to be honest. You know, I've got 2 young kids. For me, I've got an attitude of, and I had this during the whole COVID stuff, because speaking at protests was never my thing. Like, I'd go to protest. I went to protest against the Iraq War in America and in England, but I'd never speak at protests or anything like that. And then it was a case of, you know, I was getting messages from people that were like, I'm with you, because I was vocal online, obviously. They were like, I'm with you, but I can't say that because I'll lose my fucking job or whatever. So I was like, right, well, I've got a duty then. But I think if maybe I'd have been, you know, a single guy with no dependents, you know, my attitude would probably be like, I'm old enough and ugly enough to not give a fuck. Like, I'll just go and move to a croft on Isla and just fuck it, like whatever, I don't care. Throw what you want at me. Like I said earlier, chuck me in a duffel bag and chuck me in a reservoir. I can give a shit, really. I'll go off and explore wherever for a bit. But once you've got kids, you're like, nah, I'm not having them live in this world. No chance. And if they have to, if it ends up that they live in this world the way they want it to become, it won't be for the want of trying to stop it, you know. And I think that's something that I think is quite important to ask yourself. Like, even if you've not got kids now, but in the future, if you have kids, if you're watching this, or you've got grandkids or whatever, and someone says, you know, if in 20 years your kids or your grandkids say to you, you know, Dad, Granddad, what did you do when they tried to bring in digital dystopia or whatever it might be? Just, you know, have an answer that you can be proud of, not one you're ashamed of. You know, I remember as a kid there was an advert on telly, and it was like, I'm pretty sure it was like they were putting lifting a grand piano up into a top window, and there's a guy sat on a bench, and it just the thing cuts, and it falls, and then it freezes, and he looks, and there's the Grim Reaper sat next to him, and then suddenly his life goes wild, like it's showing all his memories, his life's flashing before his eyes, and it's just all this incredible stuff that he's done. He's tried to help people and done whatever, and then it cuts back, and he's like, and the Grim Reaper's fast asleep, and everything's just frozen, and the piano's frozen, and it's like he just gets up, and he just creeps off, and it's saying, like, you know, when your life flashes before your eyes, you know, make sure you've got a lot to see, basically. And I think that would be my attitude as well.
That's
like,
the best way to be, though.
Yeah, and to be proud of it, and even your mistakes, be proud of them too.
Yeah, it takes a while to get there, though, and that's why it's got to be so important for anybody who's just working to provide for a family. No matter your income, as long as you're providing, you're winning. Don't buy into the fake shit on social media. Don't buy in that you're not good enough, no matter if it's the milkman, the postman, the lorry driver, the builder, the policeman, whatever service you're in. Like, as long as you're providing, you might be tired, but you're doing the right thing, is still being there, you know, and doing it. Like, family's everything. Yeah. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be question marks. Could I be doing better? But as long as you've got family, you're winning. That's the top of the tree for me.
Yeah, same.
What's the plans for the future, brother?
More fighting, more battles, but to try and, you know, enjoy life at the same time. I think that's the thing that I've been quite bad at. Like, I'm all in, and I think you need to be all in on certain things, but you also need to find that balance and that joy, because the world is a beautiful place, and people are actually beautiful, you know, inherently. There's a few dicks
Yeah.
that get amplified. And to try and, find joy in stuff whilst fighting back. Because otherwise, what are you fighting for? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's no joy and love, then what's the point?
Exactly.
For
anybody watching, brother, that's maybe in a life of struggle, what advice would you have for them?
Well, you're not on your own for a start. I think that's part of the issue. I think that people feel like they're alone and that it's only happening to them because people present this fake persona of themselves online, particularly, 500 filters on their face. Each photo gets taken 12 fucking times just to find the one they're happy with, as opposed to the one that's real. Everyone's battling. Everyone's battling. But actually, there's a lot to be said for a battle. Like, they're the best people, ones that have faced trauma and been through stuff. And it doesn't last forever either. It feels like it does when you're in the middle of it. When you're in the eye of the storm, it feels like I'm fucked. Like, this is game over. But then suddenly it's not, so the sun comes up again tomorrow and we go again. But that's how I kind of see life, really, in terms of that. What was today like? Yeah, I lost today, actually. Got fucking battered today. And I feel like shit. But tomorrow I'll get up and we go again.
Where can people watch your videos, watch your YouTube, watch your Instagram, watch your X, what's all your handles for people to get involved, maybe ask questions?
Yeah.
Because these are scary, even though it's just a friendly conversation just with two mates, but it's still scary for people who don't know, be thinking, what the fuck are they talking about? But for people who want to question it and want to message you, how do they get involved?
My X is just Gareth Icke, just the name Gareth Icke. I'm trying to get in less arguments. I try not to bite now. It's
difficult.
It's difficult every now and then, but and then I've got a YouTube channel which is just Gareth Icke, and then Iconic, which is where it's our platform. It's a streaming platform with weekly shows and documentaries and films and everything else. And I'm making a documentary on fire regs at the minute, which sounds mad, but it's a fucking rabbit hole, mate.
What is that?
Well, basically, I interviewed this guy, and he because we get a lot of whistleblowers talk to us, and he worked for government in fire safety regs and furniture, right? And so I was okay, that would be interesting. I didn't really get where it was going in terms of this was during COVID. It's like, okay, it's fine. Mix it up a bit. Mate, it blew my mind, mate. Honestly, like, there is a serious fucking thing going on in terms of this country Britain is the only country left that has these flame retardant chemicals needed in furniture by law. And they're fucking toxic, mate. And they're showing up in breast milk, and they are what are killing so many people in fires. Grenfell, it was basically what killed the people in Grenfell. And he was explaining all this stuff, and he's blowing the whistle on it. And basically, it's the chemical industry is making a shitload of money. The British furniture industry is making a shitload of money because foreign companies would have to use flame retardant chemicals to come into our market, so they don't bother. So these people are cornering the market. And I'm finding this interesting, and it's money, and of course this shit goes on. And then he said, yeah, they overturned it in America, they overturned it here, they overturned it there. We proved that essentially it killed the people in Grenfell, but during the inquiry, it was omitted from the inquiry by, and I said, who did that? Who had the power to do that? He said, Patrick Vallance. So I went, I remember that freaking name, like the COVID name. And he said, yeah, actually, the fire retardant chemical regs were supposed to be removed here as well, but that was overturned. I was like, what? So they were going to take them out of the furniture? He's like, yeah, but it was overturned. I said, well, who overturned it? Matt Hancock. I went, the same names just popping up. And I was like, mate, we need to do a documentary. So we're making that now, which is far removed from everything else. But basically, he said every house in the UK has an average of 40 kg of flame retardant toxic chemicals that are going into our skin every time we're sat on the sofa, every time your kid's lying on the mattress. It's fucking mad, mate. And I've spoke to, as part of the documentary that we've already made, some of the interviews we've already done, obviously, I spoke to a fireman who served at Grenfell, worked at Grenfell. Mate, the amount of firefighters at Grenfell that have either got or died of cancer is insane. It's insane, mate. They won't touch it.
Did they ever get paid out, or is it still going on?
Still going on.
Shocking.
Yeah,
absolutely
it's
shocking
crazy,
for those
mate.
families. Absolutely shocking. But again, you don't know when we talk about we're just about to finish up there, but before we finish up, we talk about sacrifices.
Yeah.
These people have got to do sacrifices and those rituals to kill people, to get up the ranks, whether people believe in it or not, but I can assure you it's real. Like, I'm not saying Grenfell was one of them, but I'm just saying there's bigger things that people would be shocked if they actually heard the truth of.
Would it shock you if it was, though?
It wouldn't shock me.
No, me either.
I know it's true.
Me either.
You know?
No, as in if Grenfell was, that wouldn't shock me.
No, it wouldn't shock me. No chance. You know, it's like, how many bodies do you want? It's like, do these things and then you can move up the ladder, you can be Prime Minister. And I'm not saying that's how it all operates, but nothing shocks me where people are being crucified and people are being ritual abuse. And you look at all these top celebrities as well who actually lose kids. And I'm not saying everyone,
It tends to be the eldest one as
but
well.
it just seems to be strange. All these people who seem to level up and end up making hundreds of millions, sports stars, film stars. It ain't normal. But then you've also got the movie stars now. How the fuck does that? Who's the beautiful woman, Megan Fox? Her 3 kids are trans. You know, it's all part of a movement to then you either lose a kid or we can make them trans and you can get this money. And it ain't just 1 or 2. If you do your research, you'll kind of
Charlize Theron's got
Yeah.
3 trans kids too. It's fucking mathematically that's
Yeah.
impossible. Like literally impossible.
Mhm. Ben Affleck, Robert De Niro. Like, it's mad.
Yeah.
Like, it is mad. And listen, I could be wrong. You could be wrong. But if you do your own research, you start asking the questions, you think, yep, something's not right there.
Yeah.
My brother, would you like
Mate,
to...
loved it, mate.
Absolute
Loved it.
pleasure. Would you like to finish up on anything else?
I'd like to go for a pint.
That was 2.5 hours, brother. So
Mate,
I could have sat for another 2.5.
same.
but
I
listen,
didn't realise it was that
Yeah,
long.
but listen, I hope you have a great night in Scotland.
Thanks,
And
mate.
yeah, we'll get you back on again.
Love to,
Shoot
mate.
the shit, mate. So keep up the great work. I've got nothing but love and respect for you and your family.
And you, mate.
I think what you do is amazing. Have a great weekend, bro, and I'll see you soon.
Top man. Cheers.